Good, beautiful Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Coach Darwin Rivers, and you are watching our 95th episode of the HR Cafe, Usapang Trabaho, Buhay, Iba Pa. As promised to you guys, we will be discussing about the core values of the Filipino HR professional. This is actually aligned to our celebration of Independence Day today, June 12, 2022. We invite you to please watch us here at our live streaming for the HR Cafe, Trabaho, Buhay, Iba Pa. We are an online talk show program aired every Sunday, 3 p.m. Again, my name is Coach Darwin Rivers. I'm the founder and president of the Philippines HR Group. I'm a certified life coach, public speaker, and motivational speaker. I'm also the vice president for HR operations for a global BPO company. And of course, joining me today is Mentor Rona Del Ferentino. Mentor Rona has more than 20 years of HR practitioner working experience, working in different local and international companies. She's the president and CEO of Uprush Social Geekers, a public speaker and HR consultant. Hi, Mentor Rona.
Hi, good afternoon everyone at welcome na naman sa isang episode ng HR Cafe Usapang Buhay, Trabaho at Iba Pa. Maligayang araw ng Kasarinlan, Pilipinas. Napakaganda po ng topic natin ngayon. Kaya isama na po ang inyong mga kasamahan sa trabaho. Itag na po yan sa inyong comment sa ating comment section at sabihin niyo po kung saan po kayo nanonood right now. Coach Darwin?
And of course, Mentor Tina Coang is with us. Mentor Tina Coang is an operations and HR leader with broad local and overseas experience. She's a general manager for a retail company and best known for her online content and blog tinaandmanila.com. Hi, Mentor Tina. Happy
Magandang hapon
Sunday.
sa inyong lahat. Happy Sunday and happy Independence Day. We're very excited to have you all of you today, and we really hope that everyone would actually leave your names, where you are from in the Philippines, tag your friends, and join us for another afternoon of free learning and wisdom. Especially now, meron tayong special guest, si Sir Sunny Santos. We really invited him today kasi June 12. So we want to get back to our roots on to find out who we truly are and what we should be. So we'd like to thank Arvin Delmo for actually tagging all of his friends. Tag pa more. We'd also want to greet Jam Jam, who is watching from Laguna, and Marcelo, who's watching from Davao City. Good afternoon to everyone and happy Independence Day.
Okay, so let's start. Here at the HR Cafe, we provide news and timely updates. We impart knowledge and experience that are value adding and beneficial to our audience. We discuss problems, issues, and challenges and provide answers and resolutions through our guest resource. If there are any new technologies, tools, and processes, of course, we share them to you, our audience, because we would like you to be aware of industry's best practice. If your company is hiring, please put it at the comment section and we'll be happy to announce it. We're a virtual job board and we'll be happy to connect applicants and prospective employers. End of the day, we would like to bridge understanding between employers and employees, and of course, create inspiration and motivation to the Filipino working community. We start our program with our wow quote for the week. And for this particular wow quote for the week, it comes from a spiritual leader, Mahatma Gandhi. According to Mahatma Gandhi, keep your thoughts positive because your thoughts become your words. Keep your words become positive because your words becomes your behavior. Keep your behavior positive because your behavior becomes your habits. And keep your habits positive because your habits becomes your values. And keep your values positive because your values becomes your destiny. This particular quote has been centered on how we can actually create a better core for our personality in achieving success. And this particular quote has been used time and again. It has mutated into different other quotes by other known leaders, thought leaders. But basically, it's saying that we need to keep our thoughts positive to be able to have a positive life. But what are your thoughts about this? quote for the week. How does this particular quote resonates to you guys? Share it to us, and we'll be happy to read it at the comment section. Of course, we'll start with our mentors. So, Mentors Rona.
Yan. Napaganda ng ating wow quote for the week. Actually, kakapanood ko lang ng isang TikTok tungkol dito. Etong quote na ito, this is something that was mentioned na before the time of Mahatma Gandhi. This was mentioned by Lao Tzu. So Lao Tzu mentioned, iba yung sa kanya, kasi si Mahatma Gandhi ang sabi niya, keep it positive. Pero ang sabi ni Lao Tzu, watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, they become your destiny. Same thought. Okay? Basically, yung ibig lang sabihin nito is how we think gives rise to a lot of things. Para tong butterfly effect. Iniisip mo, pero iba yung ano to, kumbaga, far-reaching ang consequences nung kung ano yung iniisip mo. So whenever you're thinking of something, be careful of how you word what you're thinking. Kung ano iniisip mo. Naku, kunwari nag-iisip ka, naku, ang pangit ko naman, or naku, wala akong kwentang HR, or naku, hindi ko alam to. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whatever you tell yourself, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you need to be careful with what you think. Keep it positive so that when you speak, it's also positive. So that your positive words become positive actions. Okay? And your actions, the repetition of these actions become habits. And the habits that you have, it now spells your character, which now determines your destiny. Basically, ganun yun. Iniisip natin na, I want to be rich in the future. I want to be famous in the future. I want to be popular in the future. Etong gagawin ko, you start with your thoughts. Okay? Diba nga meron tayong sinasabi ng iba na you manifest your desires. You manifest your destiny. Dito kasi nagsisimula yun. Kung anong iniisip mo, what the mind can achieve, your body can conceive. Yan ang sabi di ko malala kung anong gamot yun dati, si Sikol ata. Yung sabi ni Sikol, yun, totoo yun. So, kung anong iniisip mo, nagmamanifest yan in your words, in your actions, tapos pag paulit-ulit mong ginagawa, nagiging habit mo na siya, hindi mo napapansin na ganun ka na palagi, and then later on, yun na yung magiging destiny mo. What about you, Mentor Tina? What can you say about our quote for the week?
The mind is a very powerful thing. Okay, we always underestimate how powerful it is. And when you look at everyone around you, you can't see ano yung personality na anong values na unless you talk to them. But internally kasi, how your mind works has a way of impacting what you decide and the actions that you commit have a capacity to change your life. Sometimes just one little parang action, one little decision that you make impacts your life significantly. That's the reason why I train my people. Sabi ko, you know what? Positivity is trained. Not everyone who comes out on the of the womb are positive kasi we have a tendency to always see what we lack. We see what is anong kulang, nagrereklamo tayo, mahilig tayong magtingin sa mga issue. We always see problems everywhere we go. So I train my staff. Sabi ko, pag lagi kayong tumitingin ng whatever's missing sa buhay mo, whatever's the problem in your company, whatever kulang na iniisip mo na kailangan mo, you're always going to be discontent and unhappy and depressed. It's very exhausting to count all the things you're missing in your life kasi when you look outside, there will always be somebody better, prettier, younger, nicer, more matalino than you are. So when you want to change your life, start by changing the way you think. And this is why I remind people you have to be positive. And when it comes in managing people, you also have to communicate positively. Example, mahilig ang mga managers magsalita ng negative. Paano yon? Kunyari, na-late yung tao mo. Bakit ka na-late? Bakit hindi mo kaya na maging on time? Pag may mali yung staff mo, bakit hindi mo magawa ng tama? Bakit lagi kang nagkakamali? If you look at the way that most line managers communicate, it's very negative because it calls out all the things that the staff did not do. I find out that through experience that if you rephrase your words in a more positive manner, it will motivate your people to actually follow your instructions more, to reach what you want them to do. Kasi nobody really wants to be criticized. Kung sinasabi mo, ay nako, lagi ka na naman nalalate. Lagi yung tao na yon, sunod-sunod, malilate. Pag sinabi mo, bakit ka lagi nagkakamali? Hindi ka ba, you can't you do the right thing? Don't you know how to do it? Ilang beses ko na sinabi sa inyo, pero you still do the same thing all the time. What you communicate and what the person hear, then syempre, parang, mali naman ako palagi. So what's the point of actually doing better? What's the point of actually coming to work on time? Because that's your expectation of me. But if you rephrase your wording positively na, you know what? I know you can be on time. You look at your colleagues. Everyone you see here are on time. It doesn't mean that they're on time, hindi sila nahihirapan magising, or natatraffic sila, or yung bahay nila malapit. Some of the people here malayo ang bahay, but they can come on time. I'm sure and I believe that you can too. So the difference in the type of words that you use have the difference of the type of impact you have on with the people you communicate with. Lalo na sa mga jowa, pag lagi niyong sinisitan ng mali, eventually, magkakamali at magkakamali sa what's the point of trying to please you if your standards are up in the air? If you're so much of a perfectionist, people will stop in trying na. But if you tell them, look, alam mo, mahal kita, di ba? And alam ko naman, pag ginawa mo to, matutuwa ako eh. You might be very surprised that just by rephrasing the wordings, you get people to follow more. And that's nga, our Welcome of the Week says, whatever your thoughts are, rephrase them positively. And whatever the words are, always do it positively. Tama na yung pagsisita at pag-criticize and to see the glasses half full. Communicate in a way that is talagang you boost people's morale. You tell them that there is a better goal to achieve. You support them. Ito yung tinatawag nating good faith. And you might be surprised the type of differences that you might make inside your job, whoever you are. Be positive. Huwag maging negatron. Kasi if you always phrase your words negatively, bakit hindi? Bakit ka ganyan? You might be very surprised that everybody will not want to be beside you because who wants to be with somebody who puts them down all the time? So talk positively, change the way you talk, and you will be surprised on the magic that will happen. Coach Darwin, ikaw naman.
May
Agree, agree.
dadagdag ako, may dadagdag ako, Coach Darwin, doon sa sinabi ni
Mm,
Mentor Gina. Kasi gusto ko yung sinabi niya na about speaking positively. Just last Saturday, kahapon, actually, kahapon, we just
Mm,
finished HR Bootcamp Masterclass. And isa doon sa mga topic namin is the elements of, or what are the factors that give rise to the culture within the company. Kasi may mga culture na handed down at may mga culture na talagang nagsisimula siya doon sa
mm,
mga employees mismo. And one factor is human nature, how you see the employees, and this is for managers, okay, kasi culture is typically set by managers. How you see the employees, whether they are inherently good or inherently bad, sets the tone for your culture. If you see
agree.
them, and this is in relation to what we are saying, diba? Keep your thoughts positive. If you see them as inherently good, then how you talk to them and how you deal with them is positive. Kasi you see them as inherently good. You have good faith in them. But if you see them as inherently bad, no matter what they do, kahit gaano pa sila mag-exert ng effort, ang makikita mo lang ay yung mali. Now,
Negative.
your actions and how you deal with them, palaging may air of distrust. Even in relationships, sabi nga ni Mentor Tina, di ba? Even yun sa mga jowa ninyo, ganun din siya. If you see them as inherently good, then there is an air of trust. And if you see them as inherently bad, na feeling mo kahit wala pang ginagawa, lolokohin ka, then it becomes a relationship of distrust. Okay? So, ganun palagi yun. Coach Darwin, ikaw po, ano pong masasabi mo sa ating quote of the week?
It brings me back years ago when I was reading this book, The Secret. It says there that whatever you think, it becomes. Diba? So, one of the teachings in that book is that it made me realize that, sabi nga ni Mentor Tina kanina, your brain is so powerful, but reality is you're only using 5% of your brain. And the rest of it, it's not being used. Now, for us to be able to maximize our capacity as a person, they made the research. No, they made the research on how what's the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people, and what they've learned about in that particular study. Um, Observing the lives of 100 successful people and 100 unsuccessful people is that those who are successful are people who are more focused on the positive things in life. And those who are unsuccessful are focused on the negative things that they encounter every day. And in a similar in a similar experiment that was made in Harvard, yung yung two plants, yung isang plant pagpasok every day palaging positive ang sinasabi nung nag-aalaga sa kanya, didiligan siya and whatnot. And isang plant naman palaging puro mga negative things ang sinasabi dun sa plant, pinumura yung plant, sinasabihan ng mga bad things and whatnot. And lo and behold, pareho yung condition ng plant, pareho yung time kung kailan sila didiligan, pareho yung condition ng soil, pero in less than a week, the plant that has been focused on negativity, yung kung saan palagi siyang sinasabihan ng negative things, ito yung nag-wither kagad. And it just goes back to the reality is that whatever we think, whatever we speak, whatever we do has an effect not only to ourselves but also to everyone that we encounter. Um, Similarly, itong sinabi ni Mahatma Gandhi, it has a similarity on teaching by Buddha, yung what you think, you become, what you feel, you attract, what you imagine, you create. As people leaders, we need to make sure that we focus only on the positivity. Because if we focus on the positivity, we attract success. And if we attract success, we create successful people around us. That's it for me. Baka naman may mga masishare yung ating audience. Mentor Tina, Mentor Rona.
Yung ating audience ay masaya sa mga sandaling ito na nagtatag ng kanilang mga friends. So, continue doing that. Itag po mga friends. I-share po ang ating episode for today and let us know what you think about the wow quote for the week.
Okay, so let's just continue. So it's mid-year, and there are companies that are giving out mid-year bonuses. One of the questions that was asked in the Philippines HR group is, are mid-year bonuses mandated by law? Bakit yung ibang company nakakapagbigay ng mid-year bonus, ba't yung iba hindi? At mandated ba to ng kumpanya?
I can start with that. Well, eto lang. What is mandated by law is the minimum wage law, which pinagkahaguluhan ng maraming mga HR practitioners this month kasi iba-iba po ang start date ng pag-a-adjust ng wage order. Mandated din po na parang we should pay for the SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig benefits. But any sort of anything financial beyond what is written in your contract or what you've agreed on is parang grasya. Okay, so that means po na hindi siya mandated and talaga that's what you call bonus slash gift slash grasya. So kung meron, great. Kung wala, then okay lang. Eh marami kasing mga staff din na, for example, isip nila, I've really done a great job. I've worked myself off. I had a huge client. I bag a good client. I'm well performing. Bakit ako walang bonus this year? Or bakit hindi binigay sa akin? I actually have a very good story. Our department at that time was doing very, very well. Sobrang highest at that time. Unfortunately, another department in the same company lost $50 billion from the housing parang crisis at that time. So all of a sudden, while every single department made money, one one little department of 50 people lost us $50 billion and almost bankrupted the company. So you have to understand that bonuses are decided by management discretion. And sometimes there are things that we do not see and we do not expect. Kasi yung losses na yan, nangyari yan within the last 1 to 2 months lang eh. It was something nobody really expected. So that year, nobody received the bonus. But good thing naman, the whole industry almost collapsed. So it was okay. But I'm just saying lang, driving the point that bonuses are called bonuses for a reason. Nice to have, great to have. Hopefully, na if you've done very well, your boss will give you a bonus, but it's not mandated by law. Rona, anything to add?
Yes, actually, you've already answered the question, pero reiterate ko lang. Again, number one, hindi po yan required by law. Number two, even if companies are providing that, check nyo maigi kung ano yung nasa policy. Kasi usually yan, companies would have a policy on bonuses at isa sa mga clauses dyan is they would only provide the bonus if the company is also performing well. So if the company is not performing well, hindi mo po pwedeng pilitin yung company na, "Oy, bigyan mo kami ng bonus." Yan. So, wag po,
Eh,
extra lang po ito, sabi nga ni Mentor Tina, Gracia. So, paano na to? Nice to have, but it's
Nice
not
to have.
something that's required.
Eto,
Mentor Tina,
meron akong
okay.
pilosopong question ha. May mga staff kasi nagsasabi, alam mo, ever since I started 10 years ago, the company has provided us a bonus. Hindi ba tawag doon non-diminution of benefits? 'Di ba? Kasi for 10 years, for example, you're receiving X amount. At the very least, so syempre mayroong mas mababa, X ang pinaka-minimum, Y ang pinaka-mataas. So more or less, dito pumapalo and every year merong bonus. Would you call that non-diminution of benefit if the company didn't give you a bonus on your 11th year? Kasi for 10 years, ever since nag-start ka, may bonus ka na. O, di ba? Mas mahirap yung tanong. Inputs, guys.
Ako
Actually,
ano, sige
yes,
Rona.
go ahead. Sige. Magdidepende to sa policy. Kung magaling yung nagsulat ng policy, lalagyan niya ng clause na it depends on the performance of the company. So even if 10 years kang nagbibigay, on the 11th year, the company is not performing, hindi nila po pwedeng sabihin na, diminution of benefits. No. Sasabihin sa ng NLRC pa nagreklamo kayo, ayan, nasa policy. This is a bonus. This is something that the company is giving na extra because you're performing and the company is performing well. So since nakalagay sa policy ninyo, if not performing well, walang bonus, hindi nyo po pwedeng ikulit yan at sabihin na, nako, ano to, diminution of benefits. No, cannot be po. Coach Darwin, what do you think?
Ako, I would always agree that whenever a company issues incentives, bonuses, or allowances, these are ano, company initiated benefits, and company initiated benefits should have ano, particular clause and provisions in the policy that would be dependent on the revenue of the company. Specifically for ano, for bonuses, yung mga annual bonuses or yung mga mid-year bonuses. Sabi nga ni Mentor Rona, most probably kung sa gumawa ng policy, may provision yan na it will always be dependent on the revenue of the organization. No? Kasi ang hirap naman, di ba, na magbigay ng bonus at the midst of the pandemic. I mean, I've known companies who have given bonus for many years prior pandemic, but during pandemic, they were not required by law, even if the employers or the employees themselves are saying na bakit hindi kami nabigyan ng bonus, kasi maski naman si empleyado, 'di ba, mauunawaan niya na nasa gitna tayo ng pandemic, ba't kahihingi ng bonus? Importante nga may trabaho tayo eh. At nabibigyan ng company yung mga pangangailangan ng empleyado, yung mga basic na pangangailangan ng empleyado, kasi doon ka magtataka o doon ka dapat mag-ingat pag ultimo yung mga basic na mga benefits hindi na nabibigay. So again, for this particular question, it's not mandated by law. Okay?
Okay.
So, labor advisory, we've known, ito nasabi na to ni Mentor Rona sa ni Mentor Tina ha, over the past 4 weeks, Dole and the regional tripartite wage board has been reviewing and approving different wage increases. Nagsimula yan sa NCR, tapos sa Western Visayas, sumunod dito ang Central Visayas, sumunod ang Bicol, sumunod ang Davao, sumunod ang last week, sumunod yung approval for anong lugar ba to? The Kamanava area, if I'm not mistaken. But for this particular question pala is yung para sa mga nagtrabaho ng June 12, ano po ba ang masusunod? Yung mga nagtatrabaho ngayon, kung kayo po ay nagtatrabaho ngayon, nagpalabas naman po ng ng uh, advisory si Dole. Now, if you're working during the June 12, if you're working right now, of course, kung ano po yung sweldo nyo kung ano yung wage na nakatagda sa araw na ito na dapat yung makuha. Employees who did not work, basic wage lang, times 100. For employees who work, basic wage times 200. Ito yung tinatawag na double pay. For employees who rendered overtime work, hourly rate or basic wage times 200% times 130% per hour of work. Now, for employees who work on a rest day, kung rest day naman po at nagtrabaho kayo, then kayo po ay may 200% plus 30% basic wage times 200%. So, for employees who work overtime on the rest days, yung hourly rate nyo po ay basic wage times 200% times 130% of the number of hours you work. Okay? And for going
Coach
back to
Darwin,
the
may ano lang,
advisory,
may dagdag lang ng konti kasi napakaraming tao nagtanong to sa PHRG and I'm sure masasagot nyo tong dalawa. This is correct for daily wage, but a lot of people are saying June 12 and our May 1 was on a Sunday, which is the rest day. Paano naman po yung mga monthly paid employees? Yon. May dagdag pa bang sahod given that today, unfortunately, is the rest day? Yan. Rana and Coach Darwin, just once and for all.
Actually,
monthly
ang
paid
una pong
employees.
gustong sagutin dyan is, hindi po minove ha, kasi may nagtatanong kung holiday ba bukas, hindi po. Ngayon po yung holiday. Huwag kayo
May dagdag
naniniwala
pa.
masyado kay Google.
May dagdag bang bayad ng holiday pay for monthly wage employees?
Okay. If unworked, wala na pong dagdag. Okay? If unworked, wala na pong dagdag for monthly paid employees. And when we say monthly paid employees, ito po yung ginagamit nilang factor ay 365. So kung kayo po ay hindi 365, ang factor na ginagamit sa inyo ay 261, 313, 287, 393.5, any other factor aside from 365, dapat may dagdag na isang araw. Okay? Pero kung kayo po ay 365, wala na pong dagdag if unworked. Now, regardless if daily paid or monthly paid, if nagtrabaho, may additional po yan. For daily paid employees, kung nagtrabaho kayo today at kayo po ay rest day nyo today, 260% of your hourly rate. If NCR, kasi sa NCR wala nang COLA, so yung 200% times including COLA, tapos 30% without the COLA, hindi na natin pinoproblema kasi walang COLA sa NCR. Ngayon,
Basic
kung kayo
wage na
po
lang.
ay yes, isang basic minimum wage na lang po tayo, pinagsama na yan. Kung kayo po ay monthly paid, may dagdag lang na 160% kasi yung 100% kasama na po yun doon sa kinumpute sa inyo, doon sa 365. So yun po yan.
Okay.
Basahin nyo pong maigi yung labor advisory kasi nandun naman lahat ng kakailanganin nyo to make for the computation. So yung mga nagtatanong na rest day namin, wala kasi kaming basis, hindi namin alam kung babayaran, yun po yung item number 1 sa labor advisory. If unworked, if hindi nagtrabaho, walang sinabi kung rest day o hindi yan rest day, basta if unworked at daily paid ka, meron ka pong additional 100%.
Okay.
Okay. Now, going back, so over the past few weeks, there have been a lot of adjustments in different regions in terms of wage hike increase. And the latest, mga kababayan, mga ka-HR, the latest is the wage hike increase set in Eastern Visayas and the Caraga region. So the National Wage and Productivity Commission, or NWPC, has affirmed the wage order granting pay hikes for minimum wage earners and kasambahays in Eastern Visayas and for kasambahays in the Caraga region. So according to Secretary Sylvester Bello, for Eastern Visayas po, magkakaroon po ng 50 pesos wage increase. Per day po to ha, 50 pesos wage increase, while yung mga kasambahay po ay makaka-receive naman po ng 500 wage increase after the wage order issued by the Regional Tripartite and Wages and Productivity Board were affirmed by NWPC. Ibig po sabihin, para sa mga minimum wage workers, plus 50 sila. Para sa mga kasambahay, 500 naman po yung monthly pay ng mga kasambahay. Belo added that the NWPC has likewise approved the wage order issued by the Tripartite Wage Board to granting pay hikes amounting to 500 and 1,000 pesos for the kasambahays in the Caraga region. So, ulitin ko lang, unti-unti na po, iba't ibang regions na po ang nag-set ng wage hike increase, minimum wage hike increase. So, kung kayo po ay isang kumpanya na meron po kayong multiple sites or multiple branches, alamin nyo po sa DOLE, ano ba yung mga bagong wage increase? Kasi kailangan po na alam nyo po yan para alam nyo kung ano yung financial impact nito sa organization. At para ma-make sure nyo rin na nabibigyan nyo ng tamang pasweldo ang inyong mga empleyado. Okay? Next po for SSS, Mentor Rona.
Yes, pinapasabi po ng SSS dahil kakatapos lang ng 6-6. Naku, meron pong good news ang Shopee. Ang sabi po nila, pwede na rin po kayong magbayad ng SSS contributions nyo using Shopee Pay. Pero ito po ay available lamang para po sa mga self-employed, voluntary, non-working spouse, and land-based OFW member. So download nyo lang po yung Shopee app para pa kayo po ay makapagbayad ng SSS contributions using Shopee Pay. Kung kayo naman po ay corporation, wala pa po pwede. Hindi pa po tayo Shopee Pay, tayo po ay or through bank po ang pagbabayad ng inyong contribution. Ayan. At syempre po, nire-remind din ng SSS kung kayo po ay naghahanap ng bahay. Naku, marami po silang mga assets for sale. So punta lamang po kayo do sa website ng SSS. Meron po silang tab doon para doon sa mga acquired assets that are currently for sale. SSS invites everyone to view the list of housing acquired assets available for sale. Under po doon sa website nila, doon po sa acquired assets section. So kung kayo po ay naghahanap ng bahay at gusto niyo pong mag-invest, yan po ang pinakamagandang puntahan, yung kanila pong acquired asset section. Ito po yung mga hindi na napagpatuloy ng pagbabayad ng mga may-ari. So po pwede nyo pong mabili yung mga yan. Ayan po. At syempre, proud na proud po ang Pag-ibig. Nakapag-finance po sila ng 5,411 homes for low-wage earners from January to April 2022. Kung kayo po ay naghahanap ng pinakamadaling paraan para makapag-own ng sarili nyong bahay, meron pong housing loan ang Pag-ibig. Ito ang maganda dyan kasi meron silang regular housing loan at meron din silang affordable housing loan. Yung affordable housing loan ay para sa may mga mabababang sweldo, hindi ganun kalakihan ng kanilang sweldo. So pag medyo mababa po yung inyong sweldo, meron pong guidelines yan si Pag-ibig. Kahit na minimum wage earner po kayo, pwede po kayong mag-take advantage ng kanilang affordable housing loan. Ito pong ating mga socialized home loans pong ito, make up 18% of the 29,310 units financed by Pag-ibig from January to April 2022. So marami na pong nag-a-avail na nito. Huwag po kayong matakot mag-avail. Ang suggestion ko palagi pagdating sa housing loan, especially with Pag-ibig, habang maaga magsimula, dahil pag mas maaga kayo nag-housing loan, mas maganda ang terms ninyo. Kasi may limit yan eh. Dapat by the time na mag-70 kayo, nag-mature na yung loan. So dapat mas maaga, mag-loan na kayo, kumuha na ng sariling bahay para kayo po ay meron ng, hindi kayo namang problema sa renta at meron na kayong sarili nyong tahanan.
And then, Mentor Rona, let's confirm it, the maximum na po pwedeng i-loan ng member ng Pag-ibig ay 6 million? 6 million pa rin ba? Or ano, nag-improve na ba? 6 million pa rin, no?
6 million for regular housing loan.
Okay.
Oo. So
Which is not bad.
Which is not bad.
It's not bad.
You can buy quite a bit, yeah. In
Kasi
Metro Manila.
Prior Pinoy administration, if I'm not mistaken, nasa 2 million lang yan eh, di ba? Tapos they jumped it from 2 million to 6 million.
Yeah. So maganda ang terms ng Pag-ibig, very manageable, very affordable. Medyo medyo marami lang kayong documents na kailangan i-submit. Pero once kasi naman submit niyo yon, okay na. Wala na kayong masyadong problemahin.
Agree. So updates from PhilHealth?
Well, this month is our National Kidney Month, and this is a kind reminder to everyone na ang PhilHealth ay may dialysis package which is 2,600 per session hanggang 90 sessions. So this is a very generous amount and a much needed help for everybody. There's also a ZAY benefit para sa end-stage renal disease. That's 270,000 sa mga nangangailangan ng peritoneal dialysis and 600,000 para sa mga kidney transplantation na kinoconsider na low risk. And with that, I'd like to greet everybody who is here on the show. We have Leah Donaire Digamon watching from Zamboanga. Gomboa Petget has said, positive thoughts are not enough. There has to be you also have to be positive spiritually, positive feelings, and positive actions. Joycel Tobilio is watching, and she's from PUP Manila. Happy to watch the show weekly and learning a lot po. Anne Escudero watching from Cagayan de Oro City. Happy Independence Day to all Filipinos at heart. Maisa Manalastas is greeting Happy Independence Day. Marigold Rivera, HR head of Producer Savings Bank Corporation, is watching from Nueva Ecija. O sa mga taong nanonood, sana we hope to have guest experts here at the show. I would also like to call Robert Baron Sabio, who's greeting everyone Happy Independence Day. Alain Pacolor is tagging Mary Jane Moana, Gigi Rose, Luisa Mams. Christine Maple is watching from Lucena City, and Aluna watching from Tanza City. Matilde Belen is watching from Iloilo City, and Chris Igual is greeting everyone. Good afternoon. Next.
Okay, a word from our sponsors. If your company, your team, or your family is looking for a place to unwind or do your team building activities, we encourage you to reach out to El Puerto Marina Beach Resort and Vacation Club. El Puerto Marina Beach Resort and Vacation Club is a partner of the Philippines HR Group, and they offer exclusive discounts for members of the Philippines HR Group. Just reach out through them via the FB page, El Puerto Marina Beach Resort and Vacation Club. They have resorts across Pangasinan, in Boracay, and also in Palawan. Next is MaxiCare Prima. MaxiCare Prima has two new prepaid cards, and these are MaxiCare Prima Silver and MaxiCare Prima Gold. MaxiCare Prima Silver is a prepaid card for individuals up to 59 years of age, and MaxiCare Prima Gold are for senior citizens more than 6 years old of age. So if you are looking to reward your employees with additional HMO program or give a gift of health to your family members or your relatives or friends, you might want to consider giving them either a MaxiCare Prima Silver or a MaxiCare Prima Gold. For more information, you can log into their website www.shop.maxicare.com.ph. Now, for all of you guys, sa lahat ng HR leaders na nag-register po para sa Tech HR Southeast Asia sa darating na August 25 to 26, na ito po ay gaganapin sa Marina Bay Hotel, Singapore. Pinapaalala po namin kayo na po pwede po kayo mag-register. Registration po is up to July 15, pero po it's on the first come first serve basis. Sa ngayon po, meron na pong 80 plus na HR leaders galing sa Philippines ang nag-register na po. And if you register and if you qualify, kasi may mga qualifier po yan, kailangan po talaga kayo po ang HR leader ng kumpanya ninyo at kailangan po may passport kayo at po pwede po kayong magpunta sa Singapore para mag-attend ng conference. If you qualify po, kayo po ay mabibigyan ng 2 days VIP pass. This is exclusive. This is exclusive to the Philippines HR Group. So you'll be receiving a 2-day VIP pass, and you'll be able to attend all of the discussions in the 2-day conference. The worth of the said VIP pass po ay $499 SC, pero po pag kayo po ay nag-register under the Philippines HR Group, ito po ay free basta po ma-qualify po kayo. Ngayon po meron din po kaming raffle na mangyayari. Sa July 15 magkakaroon po kami ng raffle. Ito po ay para sa 2 members of the Philippines HR Group who've already registered for the Tech HR Southeast Asia Conference. Magkakaroon po kayo ng chance to have a all expense paid trip, airfare, hotel, and VIP pass for the said 2-day Tech HR Conference. Very exciting po ang mangyayari sa Singapore kasi this is the very first and largest HR conference that is happening in the region, and we're inviting HR leaders in the Philippines to participate. At sa lahat po ng mag-a-attend, ako marami pong mga pakulo ang iniisip po ng PHRG para po sa mga mag-a-attend dito. We're looking at sponsoring jackets. We're looking at making sure that we present ourselves as a very big delegation dito sa Tech HR Conference. Next would be eShield is partnering with the Philippines HR Group. They are giving 15% discount po sa lahat ng members ng Philippines HR Group na mag-a-avail ng eShield. Ang eShield po ay isang wearable app. Ito po ay isang wearable na magmo-monitor po ng temperature, heart rate, tawag dito, at lahat po ng patungkol sa health ng inyong mga empleyado. Mamamonitor nyo po ito via a dashboard, a centralized dashboard, and you'll be able to see sino ba yung mga employees nyo ang kailangan mag-improve sa kanilang health and wellness. At the same time, the eShield wearable also has a GPS, and you'll be able to know where the employees are. So basically, if you would like to avail of this, you just have to go to www.eshield.me. And if you're a member of the Philippines HR Group, please inform them and you will be able to get the 15% discount. Okay? And if you have any questions, please post it at the main page of the Philippines HR Group. We will also like to invite you to please add us up, not only in Facebook, but we're also in LinkedIn. Almost more than 7,000 na po yung mga members namin sa LinkedIn. Sa Facebook group page natin, we have 270,000 members already. And also, we would like to invite you to please like our FB page, the HR Cafe, Usapang Trabaho, Buhay, Iba Pa. Ngayon po ay we're growing our community sa HR Cafe, and lahat po ng previous discussions, some previous recordings ng mga free learning events nandiyan po, naka-record po. At you can watch it at the HR Cafe, Usapang Trabaho, Buhay, Iba Pa FB page. And if you would like to be a sponsor po of our program or the Philippines HR Group or even the upcoming Tech HR Southeast Asia Philippine delegation, please reach out to me, darwinrivers@yahoo.com, or you can message any of our mentors, Mentors Tina, Mentors Rona, or Mentors Burns. Okay? And of course, andito tayo sa exciting part. Kasi last week, ang ating discussion last week was about HR competencies. And after HR competencies, for this particular week, we have Sir Sunny Santos who will be discussing about what are the core values of the Filipino HR professional. So to ensure that we give a proper introduction to our speaker, I'll hand it over to Mentor Tina Coan.
Rona?
Sorry. Ayan. Okay.
Ay, si Mentor
Sir
Rona pala
Sunny.
mag-introduce. Sorry naman.
Sir Sunny is actually someone who's not new to the HR Cafe and the Philippines HR community. Madalas po nating makita si Sir Sunny even prior to the pandemic when we had our face-to-face sessions, learning sessions natin. Sir Sunny was one of the most active speakers during our sessions. And now that we are doing itong HR Cafe, he's also one of our usual speakers. I remember that he was the one who opened our 2021 session. Sir Sunny has been in the HR industry for quite some time now, and he is very adept when it comes to discussions on yung digital footprint and how you can take care of yourself in the online world, as well as yung mga iba't ibang mga skills that an HR professional should have. He is most known for his Ask Sunny na website. Even before we had Tina in Manila, we had the Ask Sunny na website, and we also had yung kanya pong mga mga webinars niya at mga training sessions niya, free training sessions where the volunteers are encouraged to pay it forward for other volunteers. He's been very active in promoting yung mga foundational skills in HR, and is also very active in making sure that the HR people, HR individuals and HR professionals understand kung ano ba talaga yung role natin bilang HR. Siya ang madalas niyang sinasabi sa atin. Kung naalala niyo pa yung episode natin last year, ang sabi niya, HR is the spine of the company. At hindi tayo dapat pro-employee, no pro-management. Dapat tayo ay pro-business. So without further ado, let me introduce our speaker today, Sir Sunny Santos. Sir Sunny, the floor is yours po. Kumusta po, Sir Sunny? Ay, nakamute ka lang po.
Sir Sunny, you're on mute.
Nakamute pa si Sir
Nakamute.
Sunny.
I've always remembered Sir Sunny's mga webinars kasi there's always a bite that you will parang talagang tumatama to the heart and something that you can learn. As you've mentioned before, it's about the HR is the spine, which has many different ways to look at it. Sir Sunny, you're on mute right now. If you wish, you can send us your presentation so we can be the one.
Sir Sunny?
Jojo Lamibao Tandok is saying, hi, Sir Sunny. Nice to see you again here. We also have, there is a representative from Jonicio Credit Cooperative from Parañaque City who is watching our show. Yan, nantay lang natin, ha, sir?
Antayin lang natin na makapag-unmute si Sir Sunny.
Ayan,
Sir Sunny.
perfect.
1, 2.
Perfect, yeah. So as we
Sandali
prep
lang,
up,
hindi
okay lang. Jenny Lynn is happy watching from Valenzuela City. Precious Sarah is representing San Dionisio Credit Cooperative. Prasuram Dash says thank you. RG Arnicero is saying hi. Precious Sarah, happy Independence Day, mga co-HR. And we've left the link for HR members who want to be part of our Singapore trip in August. Marami po kayong makikilala. So one other way, ito talaga yung one of the big benefits of joining the Philippine HR group. Joining is free, but the learning you get is priceless. So back to you, Sir Sunny. Will we be in the back end to support you?
Can you see my presentation already or not yet?
Yes, sir. We can see it.
Yan na po, Sir Sunny.
All right. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm happy to be back again and to share with you some information. Medyo tayo kasi we are evolving and we are continually learning. And when I was invited 2 weeks ago, the first topic is about empathy. So I was not available that time. So sabi nila, what about Independence Day? Sabi ko, sige, shoot, as long as the date of Father's Day because we're supposed to visit my dad. So I thought, sabi nila, since this is it's a Philippine holiday, why don't we discuss something about Filipinos? So I thought, okay, shoot, why not discuss about the Filipino shared values, and the shared values were shared by the National Commission on Culture and Arts. It was a study on 2020, but they released it on 2021. So I've shared this once in a different fora, but I never heard anybody from the HR community discuss about this. So I thought of why not share this among the different HR professionals so they might as well consider this in their culture engagement and organizational development initiatives. Okay. Now, I will also be sharing, before that, I will also be sharing at least 3 to 4 core values of HR professionals, which I think medyo applicable sa sitwasyon natin ngayon. Alright, so as I shared with you, what I will be discussing is not my own, but it is the result of the study of NCAA. And you can just Google Filipino values and it will point you to a downloadable material. And from there, you could see the different 19 Filipino values and the corresponding definition. Okay. Now first, alamin muna natin, bakit pa kailangan natin pag-usapan ito bilang isang HR practitioners? Okay. Consider looking at the image. Uh, ilan ba ang nakikita nyo dito? Okay, so feel free to type your answers, but I would like to request the help of our host. Wala akong access sa chat messages. So if somebody responds, kindly read it for us, please. So ilan ba ang nakikita natin dito sa image? No answers in our chat. Rona, Tina, kindly check. I'm sorry, I do not have access. There is none. Hello, people.
Sir Sunny, may isang sumagot ng 3. Tapos may isa 4. Tapos yung isa sabi, mahirap po, it depends.
Mahirap. It depends.
Opo. Ayan.
Okay. All right. So tama pareho yung sagot ninyo because basically the answer is both. Diba? 4 and also 3, depending on your perspective. Now, why are we doing this? Now, let's just revert to our election experiences in the past. Diba? And some of the things that we read, some of the things that we heard, some of the things that had happened in our respective families or circles, minsan papakamot ulo tayo eh. Nangyayari na ba to sa ating mga Pilipino? Then because of social media, because of technology, pumasok na dito sa ating kultura, hindi lang yung organic core values of Filipinos, but even Western and liberal values. So that's why, in the same token, sa tinitignan natin ngayon, may nakikita tayong dalawang anggulo. Right? But in real life, probably hindi lang dalawa, baka 3 o 4 sa isang sitwasyon na tinitignan natin. Thus, I thought of going back and trying to find out and figure out bakit ba kailangan natin balikan o silipin itong resulta ng studies na ito. So hindi ito gawa-gawa because this is the product of the NCAA after their year-long research and study. So why? Sagutin natin kung bakit. Allow me to share with you 4. Now, as we embark and as we discuss on the different shared values of Filipinos, this is something, as I said earlier, na baka gusto nating silipin at tignan. Baka pwede natin gamitin ito in our respective companies to improve, first and foremost, employee engagement. Now, the second aspect is, ito medyo nationalistic since this is Independence Day. The second, then the third bullet, this is something na baka gusto nating i-preserve kahit papaano. Ano ba at sino ba ang tunay na Pilipino? Diba? So, let's reflect and let's try to enhance our national image. Kasi hindi naman ibang tao ang pinagtatawanan pag tinitignan nila kung ano ba nangyayari sa atin dito sa Pilipinas. And of course, babalik tayo dun sa corporate application. Diba? Hindi lang employee engagement, but the final bullet would be to improve both democracy and peace in our respective organization. Democracy pertains to engagement with our employees. Industrial peace simply means walang tigil trabaho because of misunderstanding between the employee and also management. All right, so this is the reason. This is the why. All right. Now, pupunta tayo ngayon doon sa ano ba? Diba, una is bakit. Ngayon na naintindihan na natin yung pundasyon. Bakit? Ngayon, ano ba? So, sasagutin natin ito in two aspects. The first one would be, ano ba yung core values na dapat meron sa HR? At least, I will be discussing a few. You can suggest and you can add more. Pero para sa akin, itong 4 na ito is something na dapat na hindi mawawala sa isang HR professional. And of course, the second part of this presentation is basically, ano ba yung resulta nitong study na to ng NCAA. So punta muna tayo dito sa aspekto ng HR. Okay, so these are my suggested core values. Empathic, integrous, and critical thinking. Now, relative to my article the last time after the election, yung second item natin, di ba, yung first bullet natin is about empathy. So, hindi tayo pwedeng magiging HR unless otherwise we learn how to understand the context of both management and the employees. We can feel their emotions, specifically doon sa mga aspekto na gusto natin introduce o mga bagay-bagay na nakaka-apekto sa kanilang productivity. Diba? And of course, ano ba yung intervention, yung tinatawag natin compassionate empathy na pwede natin gawin. We cannot be an effective HR unless we are empathic. Now, the second one, kung sa first one is medyo yung kapusuan, di ba yung the second item naman is related dun sa fourth item, yung critical thinking. So, yung critical thinking muna, hindi lahat ng isinugo sa atin ay tatanggapin natin, luluyain at lulunukin. Diba? So, we'll have to digest it. Tignan natin ano ba yung bagay that we can throw away because tinik na ito, no? We are Asians and we know how to eat fish. Hinihiwalay natin kung ano yung tinik, kino-consume natin kung ano yung digestible. Alright? So, once there is critical thinking, pupunta tayo dito sa empathic. Ito naman, we are assertive. Kadalasan ang problema ng isang HR ay masyadong malambot. Okay? While all of us can easily relate doon sa empathy. Diba? Because this is who we are as an HR professional. We know how to connect, relate, and help people. However, on the second aspect, yung pagiging assertive. Dito tayo medyo sumasablay. Bakit? Dahil minsan sa sobrang kabaitan natin, maraming mga kolisiya, maraming mga aspekto, corrective actions na hindi natin ginagawa because kailangan natin makisama sa tao, kailangan natin isipin yung nararamdaman ng ibang tao, ang dami natin kailangan i-consider dito. Okay, so the second bullet, the second core value of HR, this is something that we need to work on. Probably, doon sa mga malalaking organisasyon at multinational, this is not an issue. But for the Asian companies, the small and the medium organization, this is something that HR should learn to develop. And the third bullet, mawawala ang kredibilidad ng HR kung wala tayong integrity. Okay, so when we talk about integrity or integros, we're talking about the idea of being whole. The idea of hindi ka fraction, kundi isa kang whole number. So that means whenever they would look at HR, dapat nakikita nila yung consistency. Dapat nakikita nila na we are solid as an HR, our values is solid, and nakikita nila na hindi tayo kayang ma-influensyahan ng dikta ng management o kaya ng dikta ng empleyado. May sariling set of principle ang HR at kung ano yung nakikita niya makakabuti sa dalawang panig, ito yung kanyang sususugin. So the moment na si HR mismo is nasira, nagkaroon ng pitak, nagkaroon ng lamat, hindi na buo, hindi na whole, naging fraction, naging doble cara, di ba? That is something na pareho yung management at ang mga empleyado will no longer believe on each other. So these are the four items or four core values that I am suggesting. Marami pang iba, of course, na pwede tayong idagdag, like communication, etc. Diba? But these four, importante na nandirito to. Kasama natin to. Kaya natin to i-develop sa atin dahil once na nasa atin to, I believe we can be an effective HR professional. Dagdag na natin yung panglima for purposes of this discussion, yung binanggit ko kanina, yung communication. Diba? Kung wala tayo nito, marunong nga tayong mag-isip, marunong nga tayong magmahal, meron tayong political will, meron tayong integridad, diba? Pero kung di naman natin kayang i-convey yung premise natin, yung proposal natin, yung reason natin, yung projects natin, then of course, success lang din si HR pagdating dyan. Alright? So, ito yung pinag-uusapan nating core values. Ito yung si HR. Now, pupunta ngayon tayo doon sa Filipino shared values. Now, before we go to that aspect, since medyo magsiswitch channel tayo pagdating dyan, perhaps we could entertain some questions pagdating dito sa 4 o sa 5 na aking discuss. Anybody can type in their questions and then from there, we could have some discussion bago tayo pumunta doon sa final aspect ng aking presentation. kindly assist na lang kung doon sa mga nagtatanong, kung meron. Going once. Going twice. Alright, if there is none, pupunta tayo doon sa ano ba yung naging resulta nitong NCAA research and study na lumalabas na itong 19 na ito ang pinaka-importante sa isang Pilipino. And kung ang HR bibigyan o ang management bibigyan nila ng tuon ng pansin ito ay maaaring makatulong pagdating sa participation and also retention ng ating employees. So, let's look at the first 10. Top on the list is family. Okay, now, for Asian companies, hindi masyado mahirap intindihin yung family because like in most of my clients, ang kanilang kultura doon is more on this is a family-oriented organization. We have an open door policy and we treat everybody as members of the family. Okay, so this is something na familiar yung Asian companies. But to some multinational perhaps, medyo transactional ang kanilang approach, then maybe this is something that we could consider as well in terms of culture development. And likewise, so I'm not sure if this is still happening, pero sa lahat ng aking mga kakilala pagdating sa HR, even the entrepreneurs, if nag-i-immerse ako doon sa mga empleyado, ang tawagan nila pagdating din sa mga may position is si tatay mo, nanay mo, yung lolo mo. For the immediate boss, ang tawag si tatay at saka si nanay. Pagdating doon sa boss ng mga boss, ang tawag ay si lolo at saka si lola. Diba? So, ando doon yung aspekto pa rin na, okay, alright, family. Now, how do we apply this first aspect? And probably, makikita natin dito, why are they engaging and working? It's because for purposes of the family. Okay, so kung halimbawa ang family will be malalagay sa alangan and because of work, then chances are, alam natin siguro kung ano yung magiging desisyon ni employee. Now, the second one is education, and this is self-explanatory as well. Now, the Filipinos, according to this study, medyo malaki yung kanilang paniniwala and emphasis dito sa education. So, anong impact nito pagdating sa kumpanya? Diba? So, do we have an education and development program pagdating sa ating empleyado? The first one. Or, limited lang ba ito doon sa ating empleyado? Meron ba tayong programa din that would extend the same education because the first bullet, the first item is about family. Meron ba tayong programa pagdating doon? Now, the third bullet, this is something about religion and their faith. Now, kadalasan sa kumpanya, they do not want to entertain this, but the reality is this is something that influences the Filipino employee, the Filipino worker. Okay? Then, papasok din dito is, of course, yung kanilang health and wellness. Again, hindi lang yung programa tungkol sa kanila. I talk to some people and halos lahat doon sa mga nagiging kliyente ko, when they are extending HMO doon sa kanilang empleyado, ang tanong palagi ng mga empleyado, pwede pa namin i-enroll yung aming mga dependents, anak at saka asawa. To some of my clients, yes, they are open to that. Nagkakaroon ng arrangement kung paano magkakaroon ng salary deduction. And it helped these companies, it helped them pagdating doon sa employee retention. Una. Tapos pangalawa, yung mga nagka-cash advance because ay nagkasakit kasi yung anak ko, ay meron kasi ganito. So nababawasan yung aspekto nitong pangungutang pagka-cash advance. If nakatap-in doon sa kanilang HR program, yung health and wellness hindi lamang ng empleyado, kasama na rin pagdating doon sa mga dependents ito. Okay, the next item is about basic needs. These are self-explanatory. Gamitin ko yung isa sa mga mini-mentor kong HR manager and we are discussing about, okay, ano yung pwede natin i-suggest at management mo na para makatulong pagdating dito sa inflation. Fortunately, hindi pasok doon sa minimum wage adjustment because itong mga empleyado nila ay masyado nang mataas. 20,000 ang pinakamababa na tumatanggap dito sa company nito. But nevertheless, we talk about two options kung paano makakatulong. The first one is yung who would like to avail of the hybrid work arrangement. Diba? Para hindi na sila traffic at gagastos pagdating sa gasolina o sa pamasahe. The second option would be yung inflationary allowance. This is not a salary adjustment. This is a temporary allowance that would be available dun sa mga affected employees. And the third aspect that we are looking at, ito yung pagka meron silang lunch, sabi ko, why don't we magsaing tayo dito, only rice sila. Di ba, sagot na ng kumpanya yung sinain. And then everybody na baon na lang sila ng ulam, o bumili na lang sila ng ulam, then dyan na yung lunch pagdating doon sa pantry, or rather yung rice pagdating doon sa pantry. Di ba? So pwedeng pumasok ito doon sa bullet number 5. And under the 6th item, okay, if this is about self, papasok dito yung self-development, etc. Security of tenure, dito papasok ngayon yung pang-apat o pang-7. Alright, so because work and livelihood. Interestingly, isa sa mga nakita namin challenges pagdating dito sa mga empleyado, no, naghahanap sila ng side gig. And kung hindi mo sila papayagan doon sa side gig, iiwanan ka. Alright, now, ano ang choice dito ng mga nila employer? Kaasa mo sweldo, tapos higpitan mo. Diba, chances are, magiging masaya yan, hopefully, at hindi kayo iwanan. Pero paano yung mga medium and small size organizations na meron silang certain budget pagdating dito? So what we thought of, okay, bakit hindi natin i-calibrate natin, experimentuhin natin kung paano, kung papayagan natin silang magkaroon ng sidekick, especially dun sa mga employees na highly technical. And we tried that doon sa in-apply namin to dito sa mga sister companies, offering services doon sa sister companies. Usually, ang nagawa ni HR pagdating doon sa job description, binibigyan ng special emphasis yung others. Diba? So, para madadagdagan ng trabaho sa employee pag mayroong pinagawang extra. So, what we did in this specific company, all right, if we will tap you to serve another organization, then you can build this organization, you let us know, and then the services that you extend in the sister company, mabayaran ka. Okay? Medyo nag-click ito because despite na maraming kumukuha dito sa isang IT person ng client ko, no, medyo i-settle down dahil allowed siya na magkaroon ng side gig, and we even allowed this employee na mag-offer o mag-provide ng he is being invited left and right pagdating doon sa pagbibigay ng mga IT seminars. Okay, so this is something na baka pwede nating pag-isipan, diba? And one of the things that we are planning, this is on another organization. Okay, meron kasi silang kanya-kanyang academic training at ito yung ginagawa nila sa trabaho. What if, diba? Ano ba yung passion nila na pwede natin silang i-develop? So we thought of this idea, nagkakaroon sila ngayon ng enrollment. We are looking at several topics, no, like pagdating sa music, pagdating sa influence season, gusto nilang magkaroon ng sariling vlog, magkaroon ng sariling channel. So we are trying to offer a specific training pagdating doon. And we will see kung ano yung magiging reaction. Meron mga nag-sign up na pero hindi pa namin actually bilo-launch, so we have yet to see kung ano yung magiging resulta nito. But then, if we will try to consider this, baka, diba? These are the things that are important to Filipino employees. Baka, if we will consider this, we will see some improved engagement and employee retention. Okay, yung pagdating sa next item, it's peace and development. So this is more on pagdating sa nangyayari sa labas, sa CSR. Okay, honesty and integrity, medyo hindi siya nandoon sa first 5, magpasok pa rin siya dito sa top 10. So dito, importante pa rin sa mga empleyado, sa mga Pilipino, yung katapatan at saka yung kalinisan pagdating sa work environment nila. According to this study, nagkakaroon ng unnecessary stress dito sa mga Pilipino if they belong to a certain group that are not exactly above board pagdating sa practices nila sa organizations sa kumpanya. Resilience, and this is another one, something that they put a lot of emphasis according to the research because of what is happening right now, then importante ito sa kanila. And during sa kasagsagan nung lockdown natin at the time, isa sa mga in-offer namin noon, not only yung Philippine HR, but I think even dun sa mga iba't ibang HR communities, itong resilience. Diba? How do we face the different challenges, diba? And how do we increase and enhance yung ating mental strength so that we will be able to manage the problem of our employees, manage the expectation of our bosses, and at the same time, papaano naman yung sarili natin pangangailangan bilang isang HR professional. Okay? So this is the first 10. Let's move to the last 9. Yung pang-11, medyo ito, sanay na ang HR pagdating dito because we often talk about life and purpose as one of the reasons, one of the interventions para sa employee is mahalin yung kanyang trabaho. Okay? And I'm not so sure with the other organizations, but some of the feedback that I'm receiving, especially with the influx of the younger generation, medyo mas marami daw transactional ngayon, medyo doon sa mga purpose-driven pagdating doon sa trabaho. Okay? But para sa akin, hindi naman natin kailangan i-manipulate ito because ang naging problema in some organizations, medyo na-manipulate yung aspekto ng life and purpose to the point na, di ba purpose mo yan, di ba calling mo yan? So with that, bakit ka nag-expect ng additional compensation dyan? Okay? Dapat hindi gano'n kasi ang isang Pilipino, according to this study, is it looks forward pagdating dito sa productive and realization pagdating dito sa life and purpose, which is connected to self and which is connected dito sa faith pagdating dito sa verse 5, sa number 3. Alright, and human rights, and as you can see, this is my personal advocacy, human rights and human resources, and that is the reason why in some of, rather not in some, but in all of the programs that I am introducing, nakataking yan. I made sure na mapag-uusapan why HR is doing this. Not because we just did it out of our good nature. Yes, tama yun. Pero ano ba yung isa sa mga basehan? Diba? Lahat ng pinagagagawa natin as an HR, one of the basis of our labor code is basically itong Declaration of Human Rights. Okay? Likewise, yung mga principles adopted by ILO, ang basis din ito is yung Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So, it's good because yung pagdating dito from number 11 to 19, ito yung medyo pumasok na dito yung inputs ng younger generation. In the first 10, ito yung mga medyo mahaba-haba na ang binyahe na Pilipino, but this one, ito naman yung the recent addition, those are very usual values that being shared by different sociologists. Pagdating doon sa sinasabi nilang core values ng Pilipino. Environment likewise, so pumapasok na dito yung pagiging aware natin. And pumasok din yung love for country and yung happiness. Okay? And laging lumalabas na tayo pagdating doon sa happiest countries in the world. Okay? Kapwa, ito yung pakikipagkapwa natin, relationship with others, personal social responsibility, and culture, arts and sciences, governance, and pagdating sa productivity, papasok din tayo dito sa creative excellence. So this 19, ito yung pumapasok ngayon pagdating dito sa Filipino core values that we may want to look at, we may want to consider. Okay, paano ba natin kukunin? Ito kasi 19 na itong lumalabas. Ito yung sinasabi ng mga Pilipino, importante sa amin ito. Okay? Now, importante sa kanila itong 19 na ito, yung gagawin nilang desisyon pertaining to work, yung gagawin nilang desisyon, milestones, pagdating sa kanilang buhay, hindi lamang pagdating sa kanilang trabaho, has something to do with this 19. So if we wanted to ensure yung kanilang participation sa ating mga programs, if we wanted to ensure yung buy-in pagdating sa ating mga polisiya, pagdating sa ating mga programa as an organization, as a company. Okay, and likewise, if we wanted them to stay with us, not only for a specific period of time, then we may want to consider integrating any, most, or all of these 19, diba, in our HR programs, diba, and let us evaluate and see whether there would be increased involvement pagdating sa kanila, and if this would improve your turnover rate. I do not have any data yet whether this will be effective or not, because as I said kanina sa introduction, I have not heard any HR professionals yet or any professional discuss about this recent 19 new shared values as shared by the National Commission on Culture and Arts. But the same study, nagkaroon daw, sabi nila, but I am not aware of, ng mga campaign pagdating doon sa mga educational institutions to make sure this will be cascaded to everyone. Fortunately, we are in the middle of COVID at that time, so I am not aware of any intervention or activity pertaining to this. All right, so that ends my presentation. So you may want to give your feedback and your suggestions pertaining to this. So we could explore paano ba natin magagamit itong 19 na ito. Tina, Rona, and Darwin, thank you for this time. The table is yours for the discussion.
Ayan, ako sama lang po muna si Tina. Ayan. Ang ganda ng ating discussion. So gusto ko lang po i-highlight. Actually, meron tayong comments, Sir Sunny. So sabi ni Miss Pia, row 1, not a question but more of a comment. These core values can actually be learned. Ayan. Ano po masasabi niyo tungkol doon, Sir Sunny?
These core values can actually be
They can
learned.
be learned. Opo.
Can be learned, yes, sir.
all right. Yes, definitely. Okay, and kaya nga yung sabi ko, you can simply Google or I can share the link later para you can download itong result nitong study, itong primer. And this is something that we could study further as a community. We may want to develop something about this na pwede nating propose o isugo sa mga organizations. Or as an HR professional yourself, this is something that you can do. Diba? Tignan mo, ibangga natin ito doon sa core values ng ating kumpanya at tignan natin kung ano ba yung, saan siya saswak, saan siya makikita. Diba? And whenever we will roll this out, pwede natin sabihin, pwede natin i-emphasize. Now, itong ating values is hindi lamang ito company-wide, but actually, these are the shared values of Filipino based on the 2021 study.
Sir, you've mentioned in this list is love for country, and we've just finished an election where a lot of people are questioning their own love for country. We're not going to be partisan here, right? But we're going to be impartial and talk about how could you recommend, what is your suggestion or advice na parang kasi ang tao, pag tinanong mga Pilipino, do you love your country? Do you think it's a beautiful country? What we've talked about before, so many people have many complaints. Yung traffic, yung pila daw sa MRT station, yung hirap ng trabaho, taasan ng bilihin. How do we go back to that love of country talaga that we're talking about? Because I love the country as well. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that first.
Babalik tayo dito sa number 1 is yung family. Okay, do we treat our fellow Filipinos, yung buong bansa, as family? Because if it is, diba, though there will be a few exceptions na yung mga pamilya nag-aaway-away at nagpapatayan, diba, because of a lot of reasons. But those are few exceptions. But as a general rule of thumb, pagka pamilya mo na ang at stake, diba, so you will meet halfway, right? Diba? So from there, we will preserve the peace, we will preserve the communication, we will preserve the relationship, and the prosperity. Okay? Now, apply natin siya nationally. Tignan natin kasi yung common good pagdating doon sa lahat. And tanggapin din natin na meron tayong constitutional processes. Ako, kung sino yung nanalo, hindi ko binoto. Alright? Pero, despite of, bilang isang Pilipino, diba, binigyan siya ng mandate for the next 6 years. So itong mga binoto na to for the next 6 years, I will be a critical engager and will participate in nation building critically. Meaning to say, kung hindi sila tatawid doon sa pamantayan na teka muna, masyado naman yatang nawawala na tayo pagdating dito sa honesty and integrity, nawawala na tayo pagdating dito sa peace and development, nawawala na tayo dito sa human rights, good governance, diba? Then, teka muna, diba? So, we will be raising our issues and our concerns within the bounds of our Constitution um, para malaman nila kung ano ba yung dapat at nararapat. Okay? Pero, I will not be shooting our family, my family in the foot, in the sense na parang ang ikababagsak nila ay hindi ko naman ikatataas. Yun lamang ang aking pananaw pagdating dyan sa love for country. Diba? If we are treating our fellow Filipinos as family member, then perhaps we will be guided on our next steps.
Eto rin, just a follow-up question. Di ba, for example, a lot of our very experienced, highly capable HRs are given really good roles in multinational companies with a tendency na after a few months, possibly, baka ma-move kayo overseas. And alam naman natin, ang Pilipino, sobrang excited pagdating sa pag-travel. I know for a fact that Ma'am Rona received, and I'm sure Sir Ronnie, a lot of people have offered you roles now with the potential of higher pay and possibly migrating to another country. What made you guys stay in the Philippines wherein, 'di ba? Like bakit tinanggihan niyo yung mga opportunities na yan? Kasi alam naman natin how valuable Filipino talents are to multinational companies. Rona, would you like to start?
Ako, I stayed simply because I love the Philippines. With all its warts and everything, I love the Philippines. I still would say that it's the best country for me. Yung mga nagrereklamo na, masyadong mahigpit yung labor code, etc., etc. Ayoko dyan kasi hindi na po protektahan ng mga employees. Those kinds of questions, those kinds of challenges, it exists in all parts of the world. In the US, in the UK, meron at merong ganong problema. Pero ang gusto ko sa Pilipinas is that ang daling maayos basta't mag-uusap kayo. It's not something that you can readily do in other countries because they have their own culture. Hindi sila ganon. They may not be very open to communication. They may not have the same level of emotionality as the Filipinos. Mga Pilipino, madali mong makakausap eh. Madali kayo makakaresolve when you talk to each other. But in other countries, it doesn't go that way. Meron silang certain level of pride. Meron silang sila makipag-coordinate. So, mas gusto ko sa Pilipinas. Mas gusto ko how we do things here. It's not
Sir
perfect.
Sunny, oo. Yeah,
It's
Sir
not
Sunny,
perfect,
ikaw
but
naman
it's
po.
something that's good. What about you, Sir Sunny?
Sa akin, meron connection yan pagdating sa... Iba yung generation ko sa generation ngayon, ano? Right now, you can travel.
Pareho lang.
Alright? Right now, you can travel freely, but during my peak, medyo challenge yung pagka-travel. But there are opportunities as well. A lot of opportunities to move permanently. But
Yes.
number one thing that made me stay is, at the time, di ba, you cannot bring your family with you.
Mm.
Diba? So sa akin, ang hirap yata nung challenge na iiwanan mo yung asawa mo dito. Diba? And if we will talk about, again, the core values ng Filipino number one family, then we will be exposing both ourselves to temptation kung halimbawa malayo kami sa isa't isa. Diba? So, ang naging desisyon namin at the time, kung merong offer sa kanya to be a teacher in the US at kasama ako, why not? Kung may offer sa akin to be an HR in the Middle East, at the time, ando doon ang market, then why not? But unfortunately, at the time, diba? So, yung opportunity to move is solo flight ka lang. Hindi mo kagad mabibigbit yung asawa mo. With the exception of the nurses na kinuha sa Europe and sa US. But para sa HR, medyo hindi. So, para sa akin, again, family yung naging unang dahilan pagdating dito sa decision ko to stay. And if I may add, medyo ito anecdotal, but this is something that we can think about. Yung mga kabatch ko that entertained yung sila lang ang umalis at naiwan yung partner dito, 80% of them hiwalay na. And yung mga anak nila, yung mga pamapamangkin ko, di ba? Medyo hindi nila alam kung paano maging isang lalaki because naging absentee yung kanilang father. And yung mga daughters naman, medyo because they're longing for a fatherly image, medyo
Mm.
humarap din sila pagdating sa mga kakaibang challenges for women. Okay?
Mm.
Though it is anecdotal, ito yung naging reason ko and thankfully I am not experiencing that with my own children. Yes, they are richer than me. Okay, that is a fact. All right, they are richer than me. Pero I am happy because 22 years na ang kasal, plus my kids, hindi sila naka-encounter nung na-encounter ng mga kakontemporary nila.
So for me naman, coming home was a very conscious, strategic decision. So a lot of Filipinos, they dream of living life overseas. But ako naman, from coming from the part na I've lived 10 years overseas. And I can truly say with the fact that there is no place like home. Kasi ang Pilipino, kahit anong masasabi mo ha, kahit na mayaman ka or mahirap ka, Filipinos do not really treat, pag kunyari nagka-problema ang Pilipino versus isang dayuhan, Filipinos will always protect their own. So if any foreigners come to the Philippines and say anything bad about the Philippines, sigurado, lahat ng Pilipino magbabanda yan to protect the fellow Filipino. But if you're actually living overseas, you have to be very careful to follow the law. Because between a Filipino and a local, the government will still pick a local. Okay, and between a legal immigrant na Filipino and an illegal immigrant, obviously yung legal. Pero when push comes to shove, there's not a lot of protection for Filipinos of the first generation. But for me, I came back because of what Sir Sunny said. It's because of family. There were a lot of very good cultures and values that Filipinos have. A lot of people focus on the bad, like the cheating, the lying, the parang talangka mentality. But we forget that the Filipino core values is about pagiging respeto sa authority and sa mga parents, sa mga elders, pagiging maunawain, pagtitiis talaga na even in the face of hardship, we complain, yes, pero yung tiis factor natin, grabe. That the ability to laugh when it's not sunny anymore. Nasunog bahay mo, tatawa ka pa rin kasi parang ano pa ba gagawin mo, right? The ability to get connections. I remember when I was in Hong Kong, I'd eat lunch alone. But in the Philippines, talaga everybody eats with each other. The family, pag may napakasal, kahit di kayo close, pupunta ka pa rin doon sa kanyang wedding. Ginagawa kang ninong at ninang. The family and the community connections is very important in the Philippines. Yung sinasabi ni Rona na pakikiusap. Pakikiusap. Wala yan sa overseas. Pag kunyari mali ka, tapos nakiusap ka sa police, binigyan mo pa ng pera, mahuhuli ka for bribery. Here in the Philippines, don't do that. Pero you can pakiusap a person of authority na kung pwede pagbigyan ka. Kasi hindi mo naman mali. You know, there's a lot of that nuances that you learn really here in the Philippines. And I wanted my family, my children to learn that. Because a lot of people are saying na, okay lang yan, mag-move ako sa Canada, sa Australia, and New Zealand, or Europe, because that's the most famous ones right now, especially after the elections. Pero don't worry, I'll still teach my children Filipino language and Filipino values at home. 20 years later, they're surprised that they're raising pure Canadians. Looks Filipino, inside naman is ano, they're like bananas, right? Ang sinasabi nila na parang sa labas dilaw or brown, pero sa loob, kay Mito yata, di ba? Chico ba yun? Hindi, kay Mito ba yun? Like, sa labas brown ka, pero sa loob puti ka because truly, the educational system, the culture overseas is different. It's really hard to teach Filipino values if you're not in the Philippines. The problem with the Philippines is you get the good and the bad, yung pangapalusot. Our ability to palusot, our ability to forgive people even though they've already slighted us. The ability for us to be very emotional, the very emotional palakasan system, but the good values of the Filipino is easier to teach talaga when you're in the Philippines. So that's the reason why I chose, kasi isa pa, when you are overseas, most of them you have to retire by the age of 60 or 45, depending on the country. And the question is, after you retire, where do you stay? A lot of Filipinos might think na, oh, sige, I have a house already in Canada or in Saudi Arabia, so I'll stay there. Pero mahirap talaga mag-retire doon. Sobrang hirap. Kasi I've had relatives who've died overseas and they really wanted to be buried here for many logistical reasons kasi they still think they're Filipino but hindi talaga kaya eh. First, walang palakasan so ang hirap. Logistically, hindi nila ma-arrange kaya yun po. Sir Sunny, may tanong tayo kay Noemi Masicampo. If you are to choose only 3 of the 19 Filipino shared values that somehow tie up to the suggested HR core values deemed to be most important to an organization, what will these be and why?
Okay, can I comment first dun sa nauna? Okay, yung may
Mm.
concern siya, then I will answer si Noemi. Ito yung comment nung nauna, no? Sabi niya, anong gagawin dun sa mga taong bilib na bilib sa sarili because they have been with the company pero medyo challenge educationally. And ang issue is bakit naunahan sila ng mga college graduate. Right? Okay. Siguro para sa akin, pagdating dyan is una is, are we able to communicate with these people? Ano ba yung criteria and the ranking ng criteria for them to be promoted? Now, kailangan maintindihan nila na pagdating sa tenure, merong separate set of reward pagdating dyan. And usually, ito yung recognition for being with a company na binibigyan mo ng token o binibigyan mo ng cash incentive. But the tenure will not automatically equate to salary increase every year, neither promotion because they are the longest. Okay? Now, siguro communicating with them, ano ba ang basis pagdating doon sa adjustment or rather doon sa promotion. Kasi pag naintindihan nila yan, di ba, then chances are magsusumikap sila kung paano sila makakakuha o makakapanig doon sa next level. Now, having said that, paano naman yung mga, kung ang context ng complaint nila is yung experience. Kasi I have encountered a lot of people as well na may a lot of organizations na nagpo-promote sila ng college graduate, pero yung pin-promote nila nagpapatulong doon sa tenured employees na undergraduate. So parang may sintonado pagdating doon. Di ba? I mean, pin-promote natin supposedly because they should be capable of managing these people na mas matagal sa kanila at mas experiensyado sa kanila. However, bakit ang naging ending, nagpapaturo itong pinromote doon sa mga tenured employees. Pagka ganyan yung sitwasyon ninyo, then something is very wrong pagdating doon sa criteria for promotions. Di ba? Because masyadong nabigyan ng emphasis yung academic accomplishment versus doon sa performance and skills na na-develop nung empleyado na tenured. Para sa akin, yung academic training is not absolute. And para sa akin, and nag-promote na ako in the past ng undergraduates. Okay, and itong undergraduate na to, they are able to manage yung mga college graduate na under sa kanila. Okay, because of the experience that they gain and the skills that they develop while doing specifically the job technically at saka yung maturity pagdating sa pagmamanage ng tao. So equal footing except with some exception of course kung pinag-uusapan natin yung mga kailangan ng lisensya like engineers, like accounting, then you cannot rely on experience. But on operations, di ba, then dapat equal footing pagdating sa lahat. Di ba? Tignan mo, evaluate mo kung ano ba ang mas makakabuti sa organization. Alright? So that is my comment. Whoever you are, kasi ang naka-reflect dito si ma'am or sir Facebook user. Okay,
It's
let's go
Precious
to
Sarah
Noemi.
po.
Alright, okay. Okay, para kay Noemi, ang aking ipapasok dito, no? So, hindi ko na ipa-factor in yung family because that is default whether we include that or not. It is already organic and given in Filipino organizations. But what I would like to introduce, you're saying is top 3. Number 1 would be honesty and integrity dahil sa totoo lang, medyo display lang yung core values sa integrity, and a lot of organizations, they are compromising their values in lieu of their business goals. So kung gusto natin maging makatotohanan yan, let's give strong emphasis on this. The second would be human rights. Alright? Because apparently, hindi aware yung mga tao na ginagawa na nila, pinapractice na nila yung human rights. And apparently, hindi alam ng HR na sila yung duty bearers ng human rights. Diba? Pero ginagawa na nila. Diba? So why not formalize this and make sure na everybody is aware and educated na duty bearers tayo at yung mga ginagawa natin, diba? Papasok na o pag-implementa ng human rights. And human rights is not about politics. Of course, yung na-highlight lang sa atin is the political aspect, but merong business and economic aspect ng human rights. Ito yung bagay na dapat ang HR binibigyan ng emphasis organization. The third would be yung happiness. Okay? Bakit? They are happy creatures, happy human being. Diba? So, why don't we capitalize on that? Ma-augment yung stress, yung mental issues sa organization if we will capitalize on this basic trait of Filipinos. Diba? So, sa akin yun yung tatlong yun. Bigyan natin ng emphasis yung tatlo. Integrity, human rights, and happiness.
Ron?
Ayan. Meron pa po tayo ditong isa pa pong question actually. Sir Sunny, what are your thoughts of being an HR? Mas nauuna pang ma-absorb sa company si company driver because ayaw nilang mag-resign. Matagal pa ako sa company kesa kay driver. Sad life po.
Okay, so please correct me if I understood it correctly. So bilang isang HR, hindi ka pa na-absorb, tapos yung driver na-absorb na. Tama ba ako ng appreciation sa question, Ms. Tina, Ms. Lona?
Contractual. Chances are the person is a contractual or an agency employee na hindi pa po na-absorb. And the driver used to be an agency employee and now absorbed directly to the company.
Hindi ko siya maintindihan, kasi bakit ang HR naging agency personnel in the first place? Diba? Parang, teka muna, we're talking about HR. Diba? I mean, pagka nag-umpisa ka ng organization, aside sa yung owner, ang dual function ng owner, dalawa HR at saka accounting. Alright? So kung mag-hire yan ng additional employee, it's either HR o kaya accounting. So kaya medyo nasisintonaduhan ako pagdating dito, bakit si HR is naging agency personnel. And I'm sorry because I really cannot understand because from the very beginning, dapat direct hire ka.
Ito yung for ISO purposes only.
So, ang agency personnel, ginawang HR for ISO.
Purposes, oo. Hindi ko alam kung paano ISO purposes ay ibig sabihin.
Yun nga di ba? Doon na dapat kung ISO purposes yan. Dapat, di ba? Kasi yung diskarte lang natin yung pag-agency Sa totoo lang, usapang derechahan, we are trying to skirt yung ibang provisions ng labor code. So that's why nagkaroon ng agency. Alright? And ang pwede lang natin i-outsource ay yung agency, di ba, is yung mga bagay na pwede natin i-service. Okay? Now, yes, I believe HR can be service, pero hindi ibig sabihin ikaw as a person ilalagay dyan tapos magtatrabaho ka sa kanila. Pwedeng i-outsource yan. Halimbawa, i-outsource sa HR collectives and the HR collectives will do the specific function ng isang HR that yes, pwede yon. Pero kung nandiyan ka and you're performing the responsibilities like an employee ng principal, medyo may konting sintonado pagdating doon from the very beginning.
I think we have to be very careful. You've talked about this before, that HR or people who are watching the show should know their worth. Now, when you're working inside a company, your job is first to the management, obviously, but also to yourself. Use the experience that you're gaining in the company to improve your capabilities, your competencies, your critical thinking skills, your empathy, so that you are more capable to increase your value. And when we say value, like if the company does not regularize or absorb you and you're doing HR work after a period of time, please make sure that you can find another company who will and who can offer you better value than what you are before than what you are right now. Kasi a lot of people, sabi mo nga, bakit nauna pa sa akin ang driver para ma-absorb ng company? Ang tanong ko, bakit ang tagal mo na nandiyan ka pa? Diba? I mean, that's probably the core. And I look at it very positively. What can you do so that you can actually join a company that will absorb you and give you all the rights of a regular employee, given that you've already enjoyed long tenure there? Because if you're not yet absorbed after how many years, and there is a difference between the benefits of a contractual employee and a direct hired employee, maybe it might be time for you to upskill so that you can find a better job elsewhere who can give you the treatment that you deserve because mas magaling ba kayo sa driver, 'di ba? And wag
Mahirap
na
yung
natin
ano
oo eh.
Actually, mahirap yung
Hindi, balikan
sitwasyon.
ko lang yung ano, no?
Parang medyo magulo.
Balikan ko lang yung sagot ko.
Go ahead, Sir
Balikan ko
Sandy.
lang yung sagot ko kanina kay Noemi, yung sa top 3, di ba? So bakit human rights? Papasok ngayon yung sitwasyon nitong ating kabaro. Di ba? So, kung ako yung HR pagdating dyan, at alam ko from the very beginning, sintonado na, bakit kita kailangan i-hire as an agency person? I-hire kita diretso as
Direct.
di ba? Makikipag-away ako doon sa principal, doon sa management, and correct them, tell them na teka muna, we are starting on the wrong foot. And if we are laying the right foundation, making sure we have no issues in the long run, we must do it right the first time. So wala tayong babalikan in the future. Alright? So ito yung medyo nahihirapan si HR eh. Di ba? Pagka nakita natin na kailangan iligtas ko muna yung sarili kong trabaho, sarili kong function, then we will begin to compromise our set of values, the human rights guidelines, para lang ma-please yung ating principal. Okay? So, ito yung nangyayari kadalasan. And kaya sabi ko doon sa core values natin, di ba, aside from being empathic, yung isa naman assertive, di ba, the reason for this is, teka muna, medyo may konting sintonado tayo pagdating dyan. Why don't we discuss about this? Tignan natin how can we correctly apply itong sitwasyon natin. Diba? Ngayon, kung may intention tayo na irregular naman siya eventually in the future, why don't we regularize them, hire them as a regular employee right now?
Sorry,
Sir,
tumataas
what is
Just thinking
the-
out loud, all right?
One of the values po that pinag-usapan kanina sa previous comment ni Sarah is that we have the values na hindi tayo makakasakit sa kapwa at pag-unawa sa iba. Going back to that, where do we draw the line? Kasi maawain talaga in general. It's part of our culture to be very maawain. Kasi a lot of people, let's assume, is just not as privileged as we are. But the problem is, when you're running a company, managing a company, what is your guiding principles in being pag-aawa? And actually, skirting some of the rules and regulation kasi nga naawa ka. So for example, there's a few companies na hindi nila mahirapan pero they are more considerate lalo na if the person is a solo parent. Pero as a result, kasi solo parent siya, so lagi siyang uma-absent tuwing may sakit yung anak, 4 na anak, 5 anak, laging absent, laging malilate, lagi pag yung kunyari hindi magawa yung trabaho, it's because of the family, maraming issue sa bahay. How would you connect the two on being professional and yet having a heart for your fellow Filipino?
Okay, ang sagot dyan is yung integrity. Diba? I mean, how do we keep the wholeness of the organization? Kasi pagka nagkaroon ng crack dyan, then you lose your credibility, you lose your integrity, not only as an HR, but as an organization. Right? So, in that context, gusto mong bigyan ng opportunity, gusto mong bigyan ng chance, i-consider mo yung policy. Diba? Ngayon, meron kang dalawang option. First option, you change the policy because you want to give consideration not only for one employee but for everyone. Right? That's the first option. Okay, the second option is you talk to the employee, diba? Tapos you will give the employee the exemption and you will communicate to everyone that exemption and the reason why you are giving that exemption. Diba? And that exemption will not be good for everyone. Parang sasabihin mo lang na merong ganito. Okay? And the only person that can give the exemption is not you as an HR person, pero yung may-ari. Diba? In that way, ikaw HR, hindi masisira yung credibility mo. But please take note na mag-surface yung issue na yan the moment na another person will invoke itong binigay mong pabor dito sa isa. Okay, ako, ang ginagawa ko pagdating dyan, i-terminate, and then later on, kung halimbawa ka-terminate talaga, or pwede mong bigyan ng final warning, tapos with warning of separation, diba? Extend mo na yung huling PC, tapos pagka hindi pa rin niya inayos, then wala na sa iyo ang problema. Sa akin, ang titignan ko is the good of the whole organization versus the good of one person.
Okay.
Kasi once na nag-crack, nawala yung integrity, then mas malaki ang problema.
Ma'am Rona, your thoughts?
Actually, agree ako sa sinabi ni Sir Sunny. Always the good of the whole organization instead of just the individual. Kasi when you focus on the individual, you sacrifice all the rest. And that would come back to you, bite you back in the ass. So, mas maganda na you always look at ano ba yung makakabuti dun sa buong organization. Not the management, not the employees, but the whole organization. What's the best way to go about it? Para hindi alam mo yun, yung integrity mo is intact palagi. Pero may iduduktong lang ako kasi slightly tumaas yung kilay ko kanina. Doon sa sinabi nung ating yung binabanggit ni Sir Sunny na medyo sintonado ata yung company. Kasi sabi niya, i-direct nila ako by next year kung matapos na daw po yung salary loans ko like SSS and Pag-ibig. Again, babalik tayo sa mga binabanggit ni Sir Sunny kanina, di ba? Integrity, human rights, medyo hindi lang sintonado yung company. Sobrang hindi marunong kumanta. The fact na HR ka at under agency ka and HR conducts regular activities na kailangan ng company, dun pa lang ay hindi ka na dapat in agency. I would understand it if, for example, there's a special project, kaya ka hinire, and it's a short-term project, so at ayaw nila na, hindi nila alam kung paano gawin, so they placed you under agency or project term yung ginawa sa'yo, maiintindihan ko pa yun. But you've been there for 6 years, they haven't absorbed you, you're doing regular work, the position is there for the ISO audit, it seems like they are trying to circumvent something. Diba? And they're going to absorb you after lang mabayaran yung mga loans mo. I don't see the logic in that. Anong kanalaman ng loan mo dun sa pag-absorb sa'yo? Parang may disconnect. So, kung ako ang tatanungin mo, if you would ask me, you might want to rethink your career path kasi baka hindi nakakatulong sa'yo yung work mo dyan. If you have the courage to speak up to your boss and tell them what's wrong, go ahead, do that. If you see na talagang walang magbabago, you might want to rethink your career path. Ayun.
So we'd like to call on Miss Jocelyn Alos Baños is here and is greeting us. Hi Tina, Rona, and Sir Sunny. I suggest that the HR here mentioned should leave the organization kasi walang kinalaman ng loans doon sa pagiging regular mo. Yun ay totoo. So, if you're doing an HR function, it is a very integral part of the organization. So, you should already be regularized, not on your 6th year, but on your first after 180 days of So, thank you sa help. I'm so enlightened po. God bless po. We have another question po from Ms. Karine Del Rosario. Can I ask for some advice on how to balance and handle the core values of the company values and the company policy kasi sometimes the company policy is being ignored, like bumababa yung level of penalty or sanction dahil po natatalo ang empathy. If personal problems po and the reason why the employee made a violation, is this valid or just understandable? Okay,
again,
Sir
ang
Sunny?
suggestion ko sa mga ganyan is, revise the policy. Now, let me share with you a story, and this happened. When I was new in this organization, binulong sa akin ng isa sa mga staff. Ang sabi, sir, anong gagawin natin dito sa isang employee? Nung tinignan ko, absent for 1 month. Sabi ko, ba't hindi nyo pinadala ng awol letter, diba? Para hindi na nasa payroll natin. Ang sagot is, sir, present pa lagi, hindi lang nag-iin ang nag-out. So, after figuring out ano yung nangyari, mas malaki kasi yung sa sweldohin niya pagdating doon sa incentives, which is 40,000 for every one car na kanyang debenta versus doon sa minimum wage at saka doon sa penalty na nare-receive niya pagka magta-time in siya na late. So ang akala niya pag absent, mawi-waive yung penalty. So ang ginawa ko, first attempt is to inquire dun sa National Sales Director, kindly look into this and give me feedback. Pinedma. After a week, follow up please so we can properly address this concern because this is demoralizing the other employees. Dinedma. So my third email is copy furnish ang president. Sabi ko, if you will not look into this, I will be issuing you, this is the National
Yes.
Sales Director, a notice to explain for conduct unbecoming of the National Sales Director. Number one, for ignoring a fellow executive. Number two, for not managing your people properly. And number three, you are not upholding the company policies and procedures. Alright? Na patawag kami ng presidente, pareho. Sabi, kabago-bago mo lang sani, ba't naghahanap ka ng away? Sabi ko, sir, yung mga tao mo, nag-aaklas na dahil dito sa problema ito. Ngayon, kung gusto mong exempted siya at saka yung kasamahan niya sa sales, sabihin nyo lang, sir, gagawa ako ng memo at sasabihin ko sa lahat, huwag kayong
Pwede.
mag-ingay, huwag kayong dahil ang sales, exempted sila sa policy na to. Period. Sagot ng presidente, gago ba ako para baguhin doon? Eh sabi ko, sir, nagmumukha kaming gago dahil hindi namin napapatupad yung policy na dapat namin patupad. Ayoko naman magmukhang gago sa tao mo. Di ba? Sabi ko gano'n, i-correct ko natin ito. Tapos tsaka niya binalingan yung sales director, bakit mo pinabayaan na mangyari ito? Eh kasi po, hawak niya yung mga listahan ng ating mga kliyente. Baka mamaya mag-resign yan, tapos bitbitin niya lahat ng mga intellectual property ng company. Diba? So as a consequence of that, we change a lot of policies, not the policy on tardiness and attendance, but the policy on incentives, but the policy on handling the property information, etc. Diba? And then the National Sales Director, binigyan niya ng memo yung kanyang tao. Diba? So moving forward, binigyan namin ng warning of separation kung hindi niya kagad aayusin yun. So, ang option pagdating dyan, hindi siya understandable eh. Baguhin mo yung policy para ma-normalize, ma-institutionalize kung ano yung nangyayari sa practice. Ngayon, kung ayaw nilang ma-institutionalize yun, implement yung policy. Those
An
are the
H
only two options.
an HR officer is only as strong as how you implement your code of conduct and your company policies. Kasi kahit na sobrang kapal ang company policy ninyo, but the HR is afraid to execute based on the policy, mawawalan talaga yung authority and respect ng ibang tao sa HR. And
True.
sa akin kasi, a lot of the people na pasaway, let's talk to you. Ilan lang naman yun. Number one, a lot of people who don't follow the rules think kasi they don't follow the rules because the company or the officers allow it. Pag kunyari, late, uma-absent, hindi naman ninyo minememo. Pag kunyari, like what Sir Sunny has mentioned, if the person is a top performer, natatakot naman kayong mag-memo kasi baka magtampo, baka umalis, kaya ginagawa nyo siyang VIP. May mga tao naman na akala mo dahil marami silang anak or kulang ng financial, nandun naman lumalabas yung pag-aawa. Ang nape-penalty nito is the HR officer who is supposed to execute and all the mababait na tao inside the organization who are following the rules, going to work on time, working competently. And in an organization, you are only as strong as your weakest link. So itong mga tao na to, which are problematic, I follow the Pareto rule. Usually 20% lang yan ng organization. 80% of the organization are actually good workers and are burdened with carrying the organization smoothly. Yung laging pumapasok na hindi uma-absent, na hindi nalalate, yung nagsasubmit ng report on time, most of your workers are supposed to work competently. But you're allowing the 20% ng pasaway to run the show because of what you said, empathy. I don't call it empathy, I call it pagduduwag or lack of bravery.
Courage.
Natatakot, courage, 'di ba? Kasi natatakot tayo ma-offend ang ibang tao kung ginagawa natin yung trabaho natin. Natatakot tayo na umiyak yung single mother. Natatakot tayo na baka magdabog at mag-resign si top seller. Natatakot tayo na pag-initan tayo ng mga ibang mga departamento kasi we're just doing our job. And I think like the question here is, why are we so afraid of following what is dictated in the first place, 'di ba? Is
True.
it because we lack the competency to execute? No, we don't. We know our jobs. Is it because we don't want to send an NTE because we don't like to write? You know it's important. So how do we embolden ourselves to be more courageous? Kasi in every company talaga may palakasan system. There are a few people talaga na laging umiiyak, laging pasaway, laging nagdadabog. You know, following that, Sir Sunny and Ma'am Rona, how would you handle that? Kasi minsan talaga, lalo na for those who are just starting in their career, it's very scary to go against the tide. And do your job, which is to issue disciplinary action when needed. Kasi talaga, hindi na pinagchichismisan sa isang company yung sales eh. Ang pinagchichismisan na, ay, itong tao na to, laging absent na naman. Because Filipinos do talk about this. How would you give like the employee strength, lalo na sa mga newbie na HR, na hindi nila alam kung saan sila papapel? Go, Ma'am Rona?
Okay, sa akin muna, no?
Or Sir Ronnie?
Oh,
Sir
si
Sunny
Rona.
pala. Go ahead, Sir Sunny. Go ahead.
Alright. Okay, iko-correct ko lang yung maling application ng empathy. Di ba may 3 levels ang empathy? Yung understanding the context, so you just knew na may maapekto na yung anak niya, di ba? The second is you feel the situation of the person. And then the highest level is yung compassionate empathy. So if we want to save the job of the employee, the right application is not to ignore the policy. The right application is not to ignore the behavior that is causing the problem. Diba? So ano ba yung intervention na pwede natin gawin para makorek yung wrong behavior? Kung laging late, diba? Then, saan ba nakatira yung employee? Diba? Una, ang magiging tanong ko doon sa HR, bakit hinire mo na nasa Makati ang opisina tapos nasa Antipolo pala yung tao? Diba? So of course, malilate yan. Diba? Common sense. Diba? So ngayon, paano natin matutulungan yung tao? Okay, ang shift kasi natin, 7 to 3. Alright? May nag-overtime ba? Yes sir, umaalis yung iba mga 6 p.m. Why don't we create 3 shifts? Isang 7 to 3, isang 9 to 5, isang 11 to 6 or 11 to 7. Diba? And then, you let the person pick or let the managers discuss it to the person saan ba siya pwedeng pumasok doon na hindi na siya malilate. Yun yung proper application ng empathy. Alright? Pwede mo pa rin siyang bigyan ng warning of separation. Alright? Pag hindi ka pa nagtino, talagang madidisgrasya ka. However, to help you, ito yung gagawin ng organization to assist you on this matter. Ngayon, kung multi-center company naman kayo, ilipat mo siya doon sa pinakamalapit na branch. Diba? Ginawa mo na yung part mo, compassionate, empathy. May warning of separation, kung hindi pa rin nagtino, hindi mo na cargo yun. Diba? That is on her or on him already.
Rona?
Ako suggestion ko palagi sa mga newbie HR. Kasi it takes time eh. It takes a certain number of years of experience para talagang ma-build mo yung courage mo. But you have to start someplace. You have to start now. You have to speak up. If something's not sitting right with you, talk to your immediate head. Ito po yung problema natin. Ito palagi na lang late pero yung boss niya palagi siyang pinagbibigyan. Pag ginawa natin to palagi, mawawala ng bisa yung ating mga policies, yung ating mga procedures. And so tulad ng sabi ni Sir Sunny, we have 2 options. We change the policy, we implement the policy in full. Alin ang gagawin natin? If we change the policy, kailangan natin gawin na kagad dyan and communicate natin. Pero dapat, pag change natin at andyan pa din yung behavior, we have to implement the policy in full na. You have to talk to your heads, to your bosses, and if you're a manager, dapat at this point, you know how to talk to your fellow managers. Okay, fellow managers, directors, hindi uso dapat sa ating mga HR, yung tipong, boss kasi siya eh, manager kasi siya, HR ka. You are the keeper of the policies and procedures. You are the implementer. You're the person who should guide them on how to implement yung mga policies and procedures. If they don't want to follow, talk to them. Saan tayo nagkakaproblema dito? Bakit tayo hindi makapag-implement? Ano yung challenges? And then work towards addressing that. It's, for me, it's a bit a waste of energy and time if nandun tayo sa punto palagi na hindi ko alam kung anong gagawin ko. Alam mo kung anong gagawin mo. Talk to the people. Work on it. Problem identification, problem solving, para ma-resolve nyo kagad, ma-address nyo kagad yung issue. Regardless if you're new to HR, you've been an HR practitioner for quite some time. Yun yung sinasabi ko kanina. Magaling makipag-usap ang mga Pilipino. So let's use that. Gamitin natin yung pakikipag-usap para makita natin kung paano natin po pwedeng i-resolve. May nag-comment si Miss Karine Del Rosario, sabi niya, nagmumukha tuloy kaming masama. Don't worry about that. Sa lahat ng parte ng mundo, ang HR palagi ang tingin sa HR ay masama. Okay? Very rare na nakikita tayo na, uy, mabait ang HR. Kasi tayo yung taga-implement ng mga policies and procedures. Sometimes, nakakairita na naririnig na, HR yan, nakakatakot yan, nakakairita yun. But, it comes with our position. The only thing that we can do is just make sure that people understand why we have to do this. People sometimes say na tayo ay masama kasi they don't understand why we have to implement yung policies and procedures. And sometimes tayo din mismo, hindi natin i-explain na maigi. Ano ba yung halaga noon? Sometimes we answer them na ito kasi yung policy. Ito kasi yung nakasanayan na we have to explain it to them and we have to be good at communicating para hindi tayo nabumukhang masama. And then talk to the
I'd
boss.
like I'd like to add to what Karine Del Rosario has said. Sabi niya, HR officers are implementing the rules and the problem is the employees ay nagdadirect sa manager and the manager is entertaining them kasi gawa daw ng awa. So it's really hard for HR managers na sumusunod sa heads lang are the ones na nagpipapabigay. Sa akin, ganito lang yon. If HR officers should be leaders in the organization. You're not really followers, you're leaders. And I believe, going back to the business entrepreneurial hat, owners of the business should be responsible for the companies that they manage. Ang problema kasi sa mga companies nowadays, maraming mga owners, pinapabayaan nila yung operations ng isang negosyo kasi mahirap ang pumasok at makialam at makigulo sa isang organisasyon kasi it requires effort, time, and stress pa. So a lot of business owners, what they do is, I know this is happening. I know we have a problem with these people, but replacing them or finding somebody else to do their job is problem for me. And I don't want to handle that problem anymore. So what I will do is, I will let these people be until mapikon ako and then after that gusto ko na sila tanggalin agad-agad. Yun yung palaging dumadating na tolerate for many years. Tapos one day binastos si owner kasi sobrang lumaki na yung ulo. Gusto na tanggalin ng owner. Sige, bukas tanggalin mo na yan. And you're like, oh my Lord, after 6 years of hell, di ba? Gusto mo nang tanggalin. And sa akin, my advice for these HR officers is, never forget documentation. Never forget notice to explain. Kasi it's a very powerful tool for HR managers. There is no crime na pag kunyari yung tao mo kunyari, sa amin kasi ang rule namin, if you're late for 4 times and 1 cut-off, you get a memo. If nag-absence without leave ka, you get another memo. Every time there is an occasion, an offense, give them a memo detailing that. It doesn't mean that if you give them a memo, you're gonna suspend them or fire them. It just means you're giving them a notice to explain. You collect the replies to these memos and file it to their 201. Because there will come a time talaga that it's time for them to terminate and you as an HR need to have the proper documentation to say that you know about this problem, you're doing something about this problem, and here are all the documentation that will cover your job. Kasi a lot of HR, ay pinapabayaan ni boss, bahala na. Bakit nakarating kay boss? Bakit hindi ba? Di ba yung pag kunyari may offense, ang unang-unang action is to provide that person a memo. Give the person a chance to explain. Every time na may nangyari, kausapin mo, bigyan mo ng memo. And if that person complains to their heads, ma'am, bakit ako binigyan ng memo? The right answer is, anong masama sa memo? I'm serious. Like, so, we want to document that this happened. It doesn't mean you're terminated or suspended. I'm just doing my job as an HR officer to document the offense. And on that memo, yung lahat ng gusto mong sabihin sa employee na yun, dun mo na ilagay. For example, laging late. You do know that gross and habitual, if you're always late, tardinate, this is how many times you're late. These are your TTRs. Please understand that being consistently tardy is a sign of how to say it, neglect of duty. Next time, this neglect of duty is becoming habitual. After that, it is already becoming gross and habitual. I order you to stop being late. Tapos next time naman, this is already insubordination because I've already ordered you to stop being late and still you're being late. You do understand that this is a terminable offense. But please change. Gawa lang kayo ng gawa ng memo.
And I
Because
think na
kahit
ano,
na, ha?
kailangan nilang maintindihan na kasi akala ata ng iba na 'pag may NTE, diretso agad yan ng disciplinary action. NTE is
No,
just
no.
the start. You're just getting the side of the other party. Pwede kang mag-NTE and then yung notice of decision mo, pwede mo sabihin doon, if let's say napatunayan mo ay hindi pala niya kasalanan, may reason pala, you can actually indicate there or sinabi ng boss na, sige, pagbigyan natin ngayon, pwede kang mag-issue ng notice of decision na nakalagay na um, no disciplinary action. The top management
Right.
has taken into consideration humanitarian reasons, etc., etc. So walang disciplinary action. However, we do encourage you to prevent this from happening again.
Yes,
Properly
oo.
documented ka.
And even if agency hire po
If I
yan,
may add
HR,
also, no?
mm,
Go ahead,
yes po.
Rossani.
Okay, if I may add, ano, yes, tama yung mga naging suggestions. Pero kung ang sitwasyon mo is mas matataas itong mga tao sa iyo tapos pinasusunod ka. Diba? So, here is an alternative way of doing it. So, sabi mo, laging late, as okay, dinocument mo na. Diba? Pero okay lang sa kanila. Diba? Document mo all you want. Only
Sige.
documentation. Halimbawa, yun yung attitude nila. Diba? So, there's another way to attack the problem. Okay, na late sila. Diba? Tapos, nag-overtime ba? O hindi. Okay? So, then, meron kayong tinatawag na monthly report eh. So, what you can do proactively, ito yung tinatawag nating data-driven HR. So, kung halimbawa may mga behavioral issues and problem ka, the best way to attack the problem and to make them aware of the repercussion is una, ano yung cost implication nito doon sa operations mo. Supposedly, dinideduct ito. Kaya lang nag-overtime. Di ba? Pinirmahan ba yung overtime? Okay? Bakit pinirmahan? Kasi hindi nagawa yung ganito, blah, blah, blah. Di ba? So, ano yung additional expenses niya? I-multiply mo into 12 months, for instance, para makikita yung cost implication. Una yun. Pangalawa, aside from the cost, ano yung epekto nito pagdating sa moral ng tao? Are you conducting exit interview doon sa mga nagre-resign? Tinanong mo ba doon sa mga nag-resign, why did they resign? Diba? Ngayon, isa ba sa reason kung ba't sila nag-resign, it's because of this. Alright? Then, pasok mo pa yung cost ng hiring, cost ng training, di ba? Doon sa epekto nito doon sa pagtitingin itong management ng managers to the other side at pinagbibigyan itong tao. Look at the cost. Pangatlo, dahil ba dito sa dalawang employee ito, yung iba ay sumusunod na rin. Alright? So, tignan mo, i-track mo yung rate mo ng tardiness month by month. Hindi lang sila, kundi yung effect nito doon sa ibang employees. Tumaas ba ang tardiness ng ibang employees month by month? And then you connect that because of these two people who are brazenly, violating your policies, and as a consequence, itong ibang tao hindi na naniniwala sa policy. So pakita mo na tumataas yung tardiness ng iba. At sa bawat pagtaas ng tardiness, meron ba yung kaakibat na overtime pay? Right? Then, i-compile mo lahat yun. And then you present it to them. Minsan, hindi natin kailangan ng emosyon if we wanted to battle with or to head on with the managers. Alright? Sometimes, simple lang. Ako, ginagawa ko, okay, only documentation. Ang labanan kasi dyan, banas talo. Alright? And they are asserting their authority. Fine. Mas mataas kayo sa akin. Fine. But it will not prevent me from documenting everything and computing for the actual cost
Damages,
or unnecessary cost from the organization. Okay? So over time, yung cost ng man-hour lost because of that, turnover cost because of that, and ipakita ko yan sa peso value. At tsaka mo 8%. Diba? Pakita mo yung if we corrected this and then magkano yung mawawalang overtime, this should be our ideal operating cost or manpower cost if
Mm.
you don't have access to sa buong uh, buong uh, what do you call that? Yung report pagdating sa finances. Right? And ito naman yung epekto nito kung halimbawa pagpapatuloy natin. Tapos ipakita mo, ito yung net impact in terms of pesos pagdating dito sa behavior na pinababayaan natin na manatili. So whenever we
Mm.
attack the problem, aside from the administrative aspect, na tayo-tayo lang nagkakaintindihan bilang isang HR at dapat natin ginagawa, di ba? Then we should also attack the problem using the business language that these people will
Correct.
understand. Ano yon?
Mm.
Cost. So pakita mo
Correct.
yung cost para magsipaglakihan yung mata nila and then nasa sa kanila yan if they still wanted to continue with that kind of operations. Diba? Pakita mo, ito yung pera na dapat na itipid natin but we are spending because we are tolerating.
And if the person is an agency hire, you can coordinate with the agency and actually help the agency provide their employee a memo. You cannot memo the employee directly kasi hindi naman ninyo taon yan. But you can
Correct.
call the attention of the agency, and kailangan talaga it's the agency who will you provide with a notice to explain. Kasi sa totoo lang, pag talagang agency hire yan, the principal can tell the agency to change the driver if sobra na. I have a feeling that this driver is taking advantage of the situation kasi matagal na po siya dyan naka-assign sa inyo. So alam niya na medyo kulang yung HR officer. So parang ang ginagawa niyan, because hindi kayo nagfa-facilitate, nagsusumbong sa agency, walang documentation kasi sa pagpapalit. So my suggestion is to coordinate with the agency per se. We have Sir Jote who's also saying, hi Dina, hi Sir Sunny, hi Rona as well. We're almost at the end of the show. Do we have any last words? First with Sir Sunny, then with me, then si Ma'am Rona.
All right, so interesting discussion, ano? And again, yung how do we operationalize the core values, yun yung nagiging challenge pagdating doon sa HR. So, babalik uli ako doon sa core values ng HR, yung apat. Diba? Connected ito sa isa't isa, or rather lima. Diba? Una is yung empathy. Yes, dapat hindi mawawala to sa HR. Pag wala tayo nito, then we should not be in HR. However, we should also be critical thinkers. Alright? Kasi kung critical thinkers tayo, alam natin yung tama at mali, alam natin kung paano i-skirt yung isang issue and ano properly approach it, then we can now be assertive. Diba? So, because of critical thinking, lalabas ngayon, meron tayong attack mode 1, attack mode 2, attack mode 3. Alright? And then, how papasok ngayon yung kasunod, yung communication. How do we communicate? Iba yung way ng communicating upwards. Kasi pag ang communication natin upwards at ginamitan natin ng emotion, talo tayo dyan. Hindi tayo pakikinggan. Present them data, present them facts, present them the peso value of our argument. Okay? Then, do sa ka-level natin, pwedeng magkaroon ng halong emotion pagdating dyan. Diba? Para medyo intense yung discussion, but normally I do not suggest it. Mas maganda yung emotionless tayo. Data-driven lang yung ating discussion palagi. Alright? But we can dito sa mga taong to, pakita natin na alright, kasi kayo ang problema, ito yung nangyayari. Downwards, iba din yung level ng communication natin pagdating dyan. Diba? So, hindi ibig sabihin kung empathy tayo, we cannot be involved in tough discussions. Diba? We should be ready and willing to speak upfront and we speak directly doon sa tao. Kung siyang issue, sabihin natin sa kanya diretso, hindi doon sa ibang tao. Again, yung 4 o 5 core values ng HR, tignan natin how it connects with each other. Let's try to meditate it and then operationalize it. Tignan natin how we can apply this in our respective field, in our respective companies. But it is doable. It may be tough at the moment, but it is doable.
Sa akin, today is Independence Day. And I'd like to emphasize talaga that when I first started managing people here in the Philippines. At that time, wala pa kaming code of conduct. So that was the first thing we did, was to write a code of conduct. So everybody in the company, from the lowest to the highest, will follow the same exact rules. And we managed to strengthen these code of conducts as experience came along. Kasi marami pa lang butas yung code of conduct namin initially. Dinadagdagan po namin yon. Now, balik tayo doon sa sinabi ni Sir Sunny about critical thinking. For me, it is the responsible of good management and good HRs to lead the organization. A lot of HR officers believe that their jobs are just jobs. You time in, you do your job, you manage your people, then after that you time out, and then when the better offer comes along, you switch to another job, and then you do and repeat the same thing. I personally see the HR position as a leadership position, which means there's a lot of responsibility for HR managers, HR officers, regardless of rank, from the lowest to the highest, to set the tone of what type of organization that company should be. When I first started, so I told you, meron kaming code of conduct. Ang gusto ko strategic. Gusto ko yung mga tao sa loob ng company, mahal ko. Mas madaling mahalin ang mga taong masunurin, mabait at hindi masyadong mareklamo. Mas mahirap mahalin ang mga taong pasaway, very stubborn, and hindi nakikinig. Everyone is hired for a competency in a job. Whoever, kunyari, meron tayong sales, may operations, may delivery, and everyone has their own jobs and responsibilities to do, which was told to them during the point of hiring. It's very important kasi that everybody in that company do the job that they were hired to do. Kasi if, for example, pala absent yung delivery mo, ma-affecto talaga yung operations saka yung sales mo. If your finance is always absent, ma-affect talaga yung payroll. Kasi pag absent yung tao, walang bayad ba yung payroll or madedelay? If, for example, the person in finance don't do their job and actually give the wrong records, baka penalty po yung company ng BIR, which might have an impact to everybody else's bonus. My point is, a company is a living organism where everybody, down from the lowest, yung janitor, pag yung janitor hindi po naglilinis ng office ninyo, I'm sure babaho po yun and it won't be a very comfortable place to be in. If the managers themselves don't do their job, mag-aaway-away lahat. So everybody has a role to play, and the HR officer has that role to set also the culture of the company. It's easy talaga to love people who are masunurin. So for me, I made it a strategic decision to really stay true and to have integrity with the code of conduct. If the person doesn't follow my rules or the rules of the company, dino-document po namin, and then eventually mawawala din yung tao na yan. Naaawa pa rin ako, yes, which is why there is due process. Ang maganda sa Pilipinas kasi, hindi mo pwedeng agad-agad tanggalin ang tao. Dapat
True.
talaga may pasensya and may tiyaga. That's why, meron kami mga tao for 1 whole year, ang dami naming NTE dun sa late niya. Kasi, it's really my job to document all the offenses and kausapin yung tao na yun and solusyonan natin yung tao na yun. But if the person is too much of a burden to management and to everybody else, you might want to cut that person out because it's already being unfair to everybody else in the company who's working well. It is the responsibility of management and HR to set a leadership tone kasi it's really hard for a company to grow if there is somebody in the company who's not working. It's really, really hard. Kasi if merong tao dyan na hindi nagpa-follow ng rules and pinapabayaan po natin, parang there's not something right in the company and you can't reach the momentum or synergy for the company to perform very well. And if you want the company to last for a long period of time, decades, you want to ensure that every single one in the company is competent, follows the rules, and are really good people overall kasi mas masarap talaga katrabaho ang mga taong maayos magtrabaho regardless of educational attainment. We saw a while ago, for example, na sabi natin, paano kunyari, high school graduate siya or grade school graduate siya? Sa akin, why are we asking this question? From the time they come into the company, you don't look at their educational background anymore. Instead, you look at their competencies and what they can do at their job. 'Di ba? Why are we looking at age, gender? Eh kasi babae siya, eh kasi like grade school graduate siya. Respect people because of their competencies and their capabilities and not because of their educational attainment. Because we know naman, not all college graduates are smart and not all grade school graduates are dumb. So when you do that and you treat everybody the same way, eto lang sa akin, I only pick people that I like to work in my company. Kasi pagdating ng pandemya, mas madaling tulungan. Pagdating ng matagalan, mas masarap kasama. Kasi ang pagpasok sa isang trabaho, ayaw mo makitrabaho sa isang taong pasaway, freeloader, laging nagrereklamo, laging negatron, laging nagbibigay sa'yo ng stress. Kung ganun yung tao na yun, tanggalin mo na yan. Kasi if you do that, tatahimik yung buong opisina. There is like, try nyo yon. If there is somebody who's pasaway na hindi matanggal-tanggal and yung tao na yun, for example, nagkasakit na wala, all of a sudden, everybody starts to breathe and say na parang, ay, thank you talaga, wala na yung tao na yon kasi sobrang nakakapagtrabaho na ako. Because you don't know how many resources a company spends to treat this person as a VIP kahit na driver lang siya. And that's what Sir Sonia said na dapat data-driven po tayo. But also don't forget the hidden cost of parang keeping a very pasaway person. The morality, the minsan kasi ayaw mo nang pumasok kasi makikita mo yung mukha niya. Kasi asar na asar ka na talaga sa mukha niya. Kasi ang kapal na mukha niya, pasaway na, lagi nang late, lagi nang absent, nandyan pa rin. So for me, the job of an HR is to protect the culture, protect. Kasi if you really want to change the country, you change your company. If everyone in your company are good people, good workers, then you're already doing your part in improving the country itself. If all of us HR do the same in our own companies, na lahat ng tao na nasa kumpanya natin sobrang okay, like they're like good breadwinners, good people, walang utang sa ibang tao na hindi binabayaran, mabait, mapagkakatiwalaan, very honest. If you keep these people, number one, they're you want to help them, you want to take care of them, and number two, you're really doing your part for the improvement of the country. Kasi all of us does that. Grabe, 'di ba? Parang sobrang yun talaga yung contribution natin. Happy Independence Day. So if you really love your country, love your company, and loving your company means doing your part as an HR and getting rid of your pasaways. Kasi the pasaways are the ones that are dragging your company down. And if naawa si boss, okay lang, magtiis tayo. Pero let's do our part in making sure that these people are documented so that we're always ready just in case napikon si boss and tatanggalin na nila itong mga tao na to. How about you, Ma'am Rona?
Ako iba yung ano ko. This is coming from a different point of view.
Mm.
Ang lagi ko naiisip is, it's hard to be someone you're not. It's hard to love a job if you don't believe or agree in what the company stands for, what the corporate values of the company are, yung values niya. If you don't believe in those yourself, and if you don't believe in the culture, the company culture, the corporate culture itself, hindi mo siya mai-implement ng tama. So HR professionals, ask yourself, who are you? Ano ba? Sino ka ba? Ano ka ba? Ano ba yung values mo? Ano ba yung values mo at ano yung values ng company na pinagtatrabahuhan mo? Yung values mo ba ay in line with their values? Do you believe in the values of the company? Do you believe in what the company stands for? Because if you do, mas madali mong mai-implement yung policy, mas madali mong mai-implement yung programs kasi ikaw din mismo ay naniniwala doon. Whether you want, whether your company stands for excellence or integrity o kung ano pa man yung mga corporate values na, if you also believe in those, then you would find a way on how to implement it na maiintindihan ng mga tao. You can go data-driven, you can go the multi or only documentation approach, you can even do both. But you need to believe in the corporate values of the company itself. Kasi if ikaw mismo hindi naniniwala, ang tendency mo, ganun kasi yun kasi yung sabi nila wala akong magagawa So you become a powerless HR. And HR, the position of an HR is a very powerful and very authoritative position. Position of trust yan regardless of the level, sa position of trust. If the recruitment assistant tells the hiring manager na ito po yung pwede nating i-hire dyan, paniniwalaan siya kahit na recruitment assistant pala yung position niya. If the payroll assistant computes for the maternity benefit, kahit payroll assistant lang yan, paniniwalaan yan at pipirmahan yan ng finance manager or kung sino pa man. Kasi position of trust. You trust that that position knows what it's doing. So, ask yourself, sino ka ba? Ano ka ba? Ano ang values mo? Ano ang values ng company mo? And do you agree? Do you believe with all your heart dun sa values ng company niyo? Hi, doggy. Yun. Okay? So, yun ang aking final word sa inyo. Isipin niyo kung ano kayo at ano ba ang mahalaga sa inyo at ano ba yung pinaniniwalaan ninyo pagdating sa company ninyo. Okay? At isa na naman pong episode ng HR Cafe ang natapos. Maraming salamat po. Napakaganda ng ating naging discussion ngayon. Ako, kitang-kita naman sa ating mga comment section. Ang dami talagang natuwa sa ating discussion. Iba talaga pag si Sir Sunny nagiging nagiging speaker natin pagdating sa mga corporate values. Ang tindi ng ng discussion. Ang daming
Napapaisip ka. Yung words sa isang word lang, pero ang daming pinag-uusapan pagkatapos, ang daming application, napapaisip ka.
Kasi di ba yun last year nga hanggang hindi ko pa nakakalimutan na yun. Sinabi niya na HR is the spine of the company. Hanggang hindi ko pa nakakalimutan yun. Di ba pag si Sir Sunny?
January of 2020 yun, Sir Sunny, ha?
Yes.
1.5 years ago.
Di ba? Ang tindi. So, yun yung sinasabi natin na, ayun, iba talaga pag alam mo yung sinasabi mo and you feel strongly about what you're saying, na may impact siya talaga. Same is true with the HR professionals, di ba? So, yun po yung isipin niyo, sino kayo at ano ba yung gusto nyo, ano ba yung stand niyo palagi. So, yun po. At yun nga, isa na naman po episode na natapos. Maraming salamat po sa lahat ng mga nag-stay sa atin. Nag-overtime na naman tayo, pero napakaganda ng ating discussion. So, yung ating po mga team replay po, makikita niyo po yung episode nito doon sa ating pong YouTube channel. Pwede niyo pong panoorin doon ulit yung mga naging discussion for today. But for now, thank you so much everyone and we hope to see you in another episode of HR Cafe, Usapang Buhay, Trabaho at Iba Pa. Next Sunday naman po. Isa na naman po magiging magandang guest po natin next week. So, aabangan po natin yan and we'll see you again next Sunday. But for now, enjoy the rest of the day. Monday na naman bukas. So, make sure na kayo po ay magpapahinga muna for today. Okay? Thank you everyone so much. Bye-bye!
Thank you.